You cannot maintain the notion that you are pro-Palestine when you use your YouTube platform of nearly 6 million subscribers.
6 million, you say?
That we love America and everything she stands for.
Why on earth would you say that everyone can agree on loving America?
Yeah, so Ethan is doing a thing called sarcasm there.
Gazans have lost a lot more than Israelis.
Is that not him acknowledging the Palestinians have it worse? He just doesn't like the rise of anti-Semitism? I cannot take the Steve lookalike seriously. He's referencing somebody who is stated in the article he's showing on the screen as a white supremacist.
He literally refers to one of the reasons for Hamas being so dangerous as them being Islamic.
Yeah, but we also just watched him correct himself.
You meant Islamist. Just a correction there.
Yeah, thank you.
I don't know if he did this on purpose or if he just decided to leave out the updated information.
I've been watching you since I was 14, really.
It was like a year ago. Alright guys, let's get this party started. It's time for a little, it's time for another Ethan Bad video. That's it. Not a whole lot going on. And I'm curious. So we chilling. We on a vibe, dude. We got a Star Wars party coming up soon. It's gonna be expensive. Don't worry, guys. I don't lie for money. All right. I'd make money regardless if I said Ethan good or Ethan bad. I know how to play both sides, dude. All right. I grew up jerking off to femboys. Shouldn't have been at that. Anyway, let's go.
My only crime is wanting a two-state solution.
True.
Instead of one. And
make it a 3-state solution. Put a McDonald's over there, am I right?
thinking it's not okay to kill Israeli civilians. That's it.
At the end of January
What a normal take. All right.
this year, Ethan Klein of H3H3
Yeah,
Productions
H3,
posted what is undeniably one of the most popular pieces of pro-Israel propaganda that the internet has seen in months.
I guess. Well, maybe that might actually be true because you should criticize Israel, but everybody seems to hate them a little too much. So
The video boasts more than 200,000 likes and over 3 million views. And
wait, Lonerbox debated this guy? That's crazy. That's crazy.
whilst Ethan would probably balk at this video being called pro-Israel, it was even initially sponsored by ExpressVPN, an Israeli-owned company whose owners have extensive links to the Israeli military through funding it and also even going as far to fund trips for Israeli soldiers perpetrating the genocide in Gaza to go back and see their family. Now,
Wow. I'm gonna be real with you. I don't think anybody looks at ExpressVPN and goes, Jewish propaganda. I don't know, man. That was a really interesting. We just started, man. I don't even have the energy to be amazed by what you just did. That was wild, brother. I feel like we just went through a bunch of JQs. Okie dokie. Crazy stuff.
the original goal
Now I know what this guy looks like. He looks like Steve. He looks like Steve. I was sitting here and I'm like, this guy looks so familiar. And my first reaction was like, oh, he looks so familiar because, you know, he basically looks like if you just put in like kind of bread tube anti-Israel into like Chat GPT or something, and they drew it for you. But then I was like, no, it's Steve from Sex and the City, dude. It's literal spitting image. It's incredible.
of Ethan's video was to deplatform and discredit the Twitch streamer Hassan Piker.
That is kind of true. He kind of deserves it though, man.
However, the video has backfired because although Ethan had been on a near 15-month-long crash out from
I think what backfired, Ethan talked about it a little too much. So optically, he doesn't look like he's in the right necessarily. He looks like he's kind of a whinging fuck. And I say that with all peace and love, of course. But I think that's how it comes off. You know, if Ethan was a little more tactical in his strikes, like Israel was, that's a bad joke. Sorry. Pray to God for that one. That was actually pretty inappropriate. But anyway, if Ethan was a little better about the way he presented himself, I think he could have been a little bit better in showing people that Hassan is like, he's mostly right. I mean, like, yeah, healthcare is good. We need better healthcare, and like Gaza needs to be more protected. You know, thankfully he didn't, advocate to vote for Kamala Harris. So now we're going to get some hotels over there, maybe a Disney. So I guess I'll visit when it's safe. But yeah, you know, he pulls like legitimate terrorists onto his stream, and he does push, you know, some Israeli propaganda or anti-Israeli propaganda. You know, him laughing at the, you know, death of that family and making it seem like Israeli hostages want to kiss the terrorists that captured them, and making it seem like they actually had a really good time over there. It's pretty gross stuff. You know what I mean? So Ethan he just needs to play the optics game better, I think. But
October of 2023 until January of 2025, what Ethan did is expose the paradoxical nature of his position, which he maintains is pro-Palestine, to an even larger audience than before. Put simply, you cannot maintain the notion that you are pro-Palestine when you use your YouTube platform of nearly 6 million subscribers to spread the exact same talking points that have been utilized by the Israeli government.
6 million, you say? I don't think he has 6 million. Oh, wait. I guess his other channel does, H3 Production or H3 Productions,
to justify the extermination of tens of thousands of Palestinian people. Now,
I don't think he justifies it. What are you talking about?
I have already made multiple videos on this which have accumulated well in excess of 1 million views on TikTok, but Ethan Klein has chosen over and over
1 million views on TikTok?
Hey man,
Holy moly. That's so many TikTok views. Damn, he doesn't even have 6 million. Looks like somebody fudged the numbers. Sorry, I love Jews.
Over again to ignore these videos in favor of going after smaller content creators who often make jokes at his expense, but do not offer succinct criticisms of his thought.
I feel like you guys have tried, no?
So what I thought I would do is critique Ethan's thought and demonstrate that he is not at all pro-Palestine, because he is nothing more than a Westerner whose thought is dominated by Orientalism.
Sorry, I'm just... Apparently this guy had a conversation with this guy Lonerbox I'm trying to find.
And he therefore simply cannot offer a succinct political understanding of anything to do with the Middle East. Now,
What do you mean?
the concept...
What do you guys think you do? Like, let's be absolutely real here. And I don't want this to come off as like shitty. I care about Gaza as much as this guy does. When you hear about it, it's like really sad, and I wish it would end. But then I watch Righteous Gemstones and I'm kind of distracted. You know what I mean? I just don't pretend that I'm really worked up about it, because you know these guys aren't that worked up about it. It's really big for them. They get to make money talking about it and sensationalizing it. Every time we get into a video, it's a sensationalized fucking mess. You know, like Noah Samsen's video was full of disinformation. I ended up picking through that. So...
of Orientalism was proffered by Edward Said. It was the first thing that I learnt about when I started my Middle Eastern Studies degree as an undergraduate back in 2019. And what it basically refers to is a distinction between them and us. Them being non-Westerners and us being Westerners. And according to Said, this was produced through discourse, and what he meant by this was anything from travel writings, newspapers, stories, depictions, anything that you could think of which created a vision of people from the Middle East or the wider Orient. It is at its most basic media which seeks to create this distinction between them and us, and Ethan's video is a
true, bro. I love reading books too, man.
Perfect example of it. Through this Orientalism and the discourse it produces, an essentialized image of the Oriental, or Middle Easterner, is created that is backwards, uncivilized, violent, and savage, which is...
I disagree, man. That was my favorite, ramen noodle flavor. I said that was my favorite ramen noodle flavor. What are you talking about? I love that flavor. You're not allowed to say it anymore.
Is juxtaposed against the civility of the Occident, or the West. Now, what is important to note here is that...
Listen, man, like, I don't know what the fuck you're on about. I mean, like, I don't think Ethan thinks that Middle Eastern people are savages. I just don't think he thinks that. Middle Eastern people are chill, man. Like, they're cool. Like, I don't think it's... it doesn't have to go in so deep where it's like, so you hate Muslims? Nah, man, I'm chilling, bro. Like, it's not that fucking deep. You know, you're going on to this whole... I mean, what do you call it, a straw man? You're going on to this whole fucking tirade about it. He's portraying the Muslims as dirty, blah, blah, blah. No, he's not. No, he's not. It's ridiculous.
Orientalism is dialectical. It is not just about denigrating the other, creating this barbarous savage. It has always been about making Westerners feel superior, feel better about themselves, and so as to establish themselves as moral and enlightened, even when their
maybe this should have been about Asmongold, bud.
Politics and behavior shows an exact opposite.
You kind of are coming off a little moral and enlightened, no?
Ethan's content around Palestine is a perfect example of this. He consistently deploys Orientalism to assuage his own feelings and to maintain the notion that he is pro-Palestine, and
what that means.
So he never has to avow the disgusting right-wing talking points that he spreads and the violence that these inflict on Palestinian people.
Hasn't Ethan been talking about how he thinks that, like, Netanyahu's a war criminal since before this was even like a popular topic? Like when it was on, like when he first started his podcast? I don't understand what you're talking about.
Take this part of Ethan's so-called content nuke, where he speaks gleefully about the assassination of senior Hamas figures.
All right. right? Who cares? They're terrorists.
values, or, well, they were billionaires. 'Cause they're
Don't like the Hamas leaders steal aid money from the people there? I mean, I feel really bad for people in Gaza because Israel doesn't care about them and neither does Hamas. Like, nobody seems to care about them. It's fucked up. Yeah, they totally like stole tons and tons of humanitarian aid. That's why they're rich. The typical billionaires, am I right, guys? You're next, Elon. Nah, I'm just kidding. They would never go after that guy.
all dead. They killed it all. They're all dead.
Or this part where he condemns Hassan Piker.
Oh no. Oh no. Ethan said that terrorists that steal from the people they claim to protect are bad. Oh, Ethan. Dirty Zionist Ethan Klein. Holy fuck.
For his endorsement of Syed Hassan Nasrallah, the former leader of Hezbollah, who was killed in an Israeli strike last year.
Hezbollah is a paramilitary organization.
Do we like them or no?
Aren't they also terrorists? We could sit here and we could be like, hey, listen, there's probably a reason why they were founded. And it's probably partially due to Western oppression. I wouldn't doubt that at all. But you get to a certain point where you're just kind of killing people, you know? So it's fine. Who cares? I don't.
They are a terrorist organization. Like they're designated. They are designated by the American state as a terrorist organization.
I do not like them then.
Well, like
I like what you like.
I don't have an issue with them. Let's just say
This is Hezbollah's leader.
I'm going to be honest with you. I would probably take the United States government, their word for it, over Hassan's. And I know the United States government isn't exactly the best. I'm going to be real with you. But I'm thinking I'm probably going to agree with them a little bit more.
Leader, Hassan Nasrallah. According to Hassan Piker, this man is a brilliant freedom fighter. But before we get into that, let's see how he feels about Jewish people. Here are some choice quotes from Hezbollah's leader, Hassan Nasrallah. According to Shaul Shai, Hassan Nasrallah said in a speech delivered in Beirut, "What do the Jews want? They want security and money. Throughout history, the Jews
I do actually want those things quite a bit.
have been Allah's most cowardly and avaricious creatures. If you look all over the world, you will find no one more miserly or greedy than they are."
Also, I mean, if their foundation is in some level of Jewish oppression, I could understand why you don't like Jews. It ain't right. But if that group of people has oppressed you, you'd probably be pretty upset. So this is just what a little bit of AI told us, our new overlord. A1, as Linda McMahon, the CTE queen, calls it. Hezbollah. What a cool fucking name, dude. I'm naming my kid Hezbollah. Formation is rooted in the complex and volatile environment of Lebanon during the 1980s, specifically shaped by the confluence of the Lebanese civil war, the Israeli invasion of Lebanon, and the influence of the Iranian government. Sounds like there's a lot of complicated stuff here. Now, it might sound like I'm ignorant, because I am, but I'm not going to pretend I know what the fuck's going on in any deep capacity, like a lot of these other YouTubers do. So yeah, I could see why he doesn't like them. But at the end of the day, like, I'm going to dislike the guy who doesn't like the Jews because I'm one of thems. Sometimes it's that simple, you know?
Now, at first, I was just going to let this section of the content nuke play because it seemingly shows anti-Semitic statements by the leader of Hezbollah. But a quick look into this shows that much like the rest of Ethan's video, the sourcing is just absolutely terrible. He has gone on Wikipedia and repeated unequivocally what is put on there without bothering to check the veracity of anything. So let's quickly...
I feel like Wikipedia is probably one of the best sources around. I'm 35 years old. I'm tired of teacher propaganda telling me that it's not a good source. It fucking is. They source everything. No? Is that not a good rundown?
Quickly go through them. The first quote comes from the book of an Israeli official, Shaul Shai, the former head of the IOF's military history department, a lifelong Israeli soldier.
Oh, shit. Oh, okay, so we're saying that because he's a Jew guy, that means that he must be lying about this guy not liking the Jews. Gotcha.
So it may be that this man made up his claims, especially...
Probably not. Hezbollah probably doesn't like Jewish people or Israel very much. When you're getting fucked, it's hard to care about the person fucking you. Well, insinuating. You get my... Okay.
Since the articles he cites in his book are almost impossible to find now, and we all know that Israel, its government, and senior officials don't necessarily love telling the truth.
Oh yeah, I'm sure that they lie and propagandize. I would argue that they probably lie less than Hamas, truthfully. They're held to a higher standard. It's one of the reasons we care so much, is that Israel's held to a Western standard, which is generally a higher standard. Is it perfect? No, of course not. Let's be absolutely real. But it's held to a higher standard than Hamas is, right? Mostly because Israel is a financially booming, wealthy, Western country. So you should hold them to a higher standard. But again, they are generally held to a higher standard. So it's something to keep in mind.
The second quote is not actually from Nasrallah. The source that Wikipedia cites is noted to be incorrect.
It says Hassan, dude. Hassan Parker.
This 2012 article. It is not a quote from Nasrallah. The third quote is perhaps the most outrageous of all of them cited by Ethan, because it is noted on the Wikipedia page that this is likely a lie. It literally notes that Charles Glass says...
Well, yeah, but there are other sources for this, so he doesn't have, not all of them have to be perfect, right? Although I guess he's trying to say that since one or two of them aren't 100%, a hundo, that means the rest of them are bad.
That this was fake, and the managing editor of the newspaper that it was first published in said he had no faith in the article. The fourth quote is not from Nasrallah. The fifth, there is apparently no specific source provided in the book A Privilege to Die, but it does appear in the text of Hezbollah's Al-Ad.
Oh. Isn't that like a big deal?
As well as in the same English language collection of Nasrallah's speeches. However, straight after is an emphasis that Hezbollah's fight is with Israel and not with Jews.
Okay. I don't know, man. I feel like a lot of these people are like upper middle class white kids that come on here. They're like, yeah, let me throw down some facts for you. Okay. I grew up a normal person, and the reality is when Israel, a country of Jewish people, God bless them, are attacking people, even when the people are not in favor of everything that the government says and does, you're still going to get angry at the people that are running the government, right? You're going to still get angry and say, like, the Jews are bad. That's what they're going to think if they're getting attacked by Israel. You want to pretend like nuances for people that have the time to be nuanced. When you're getting fucking, bombed, invaded, you're not going to be like, let me separate the Jews from Israel. No, you're not going to do that. It's just like a silly thing to say. Like, why even take this argument? Like, why are you debate broing this so much? It's just like, yeah, they probably don't like Jewish people because Israel has had an impact on them. And I'm not aware of the entirety of the conflict. Maybe there's a justifier to some capacity of Israel going in Lebanon. I have no fucking idea. I don't. But like, it's just silly that you wouldn't make the assumption. It's like the same thing in America, right? Like, there are black people who don't like white people because the system was created by white people. Is it all white people's fault? No, but if I get it, why black people would hate white people, but for me, I'm fucking cool as hell. You know what I'm saying?
The final quote is just a citation from the Ministry of Israeli Foreign Affairs. I am sorry, but I don't buy their nonsense so quickly. This is a ministry for a government that lies constantly. I mean, just this week, senior military officials in Israel felt comfortable lying about an overt war crime. They claim that Palestinian paramedics who were executed whilst driving their ambulances didn't have their lights on, were acting suspiciously.
Well, the IDF did not randomly attack an ambulance.
Oh yeah, I saw that. That was really fucked up. That was pretty terrible.
On last Sunday, several uncoordinated vehicles were identified advancing suspiciously toward IDF troops without headlights or emergency signals.
And now there is literal video evidence showing the exact opposite. Israel will say and do anything because they rely on morons like Ethan believing absolutely anything because it fits with their narrative that the other are barbarous and evil monsters who commit crimes constantly. But
I don't think he thinks that about what?
With their narrative that the other are barbarous and evil monsters who commit lewdness. Israel will say and do anything because they rely on morons like Ethan believing absolutely anything because it fits with their narrative that the other are barbarous and evil monsters who commit crimes constantly.
Are you trying to insinuate that Ethan thinks that Palestinian people are barbarous monsters or like Muslim people? Or that's insane. Because he thinks that a designated terrorist organization is bad, that means he hates all Muslim people? I feel like that's dumb.
But then consider Ethan's reaction to this clip of his wife.
Just the other day, Bibi fired
Oh, we're still doing this one, huh?
a really good guy that a lot of people are pissed about, and he fired him because they had a disagreement, and that's like so Trump coded.
Well, he was like a moderating voice in the war room.
Yeah.
And he got rid of him, or at least a more moderate voice. I don't know anything about the guy. Just recognize his picture. He looked mean. I thought he was mean just because he looked mean.
No.
In the video,
Yeah, so, what was the guy's name? He'll say it.
Keeler is endorsing Yoav Gallant.
That's it, Gallant. Yeah, Gallant. Okay, gotcha. The reason why, it's so boring doing this one over and over again, right? They overspeak Gallant, absolutely. But Gallant was trying to end the war. He was advising Netanyahu to end the constant assault of Gaza, and that's why they said that. Like, we've talked about this so many times. They should have talked about it better. They apologized for talking about it stupidly and insensitively. How many times are we going to bring up this dumb clip? I just don't understand. But okay.
Israel's former defense minister, a man who is wanted by the International Criminal Court,
True.
whose crimes far supersede any of those committed by either Nasrallah or any other leader of Hamas, the Houthis, or anyone you can think of. This is a man who said openly he wanted a total siege of the Gaza Strip.
Absolutely. Absolutely. But then he also wanted to end it, right? So, like, this is the thing. We're not having a conversation about him being a good or a bad person. The conversation is this person was at the point where he wanted to end the siege. That's not even called a war. I guess it is, but it's a fucking siege of Gaza. And Netanyahu got rid of him because he wanted to do that. Right? We're not saying he's a good person. But that's the context. That's it. We talked about this a million times already.
He is the man who prosecuted the genocide, which Ethan loves to say that he opposes, and yet he let his wife take a break with almost no pushback, even though she referred to him as a really great guy.
They got significant pushback to the point where she had to apologize.
Hila and Ethan's claim was that they didn't really know who Yoav Gallant was or what he was like, even though that clip of Yoav Gallant claiming that Israel was going to institute a total siege was noted by South Africa at the International Court of Justice.
I forgot that they were South African. They didn't do enough research on it before talking about it. That's your biggest criticism.
And was a very popular clip for noting Israel's genocidal intent in Gaza. And so what I think that this is indicative of is either one of two things, which is that Ethan and Hila don't know anything about Israel-Palestine colonization and the wider Middle East North Africa region, which is undeniably true, or that Hila could not take the backlash when they avowed their actual views, which I think is the more likely of the two, because the idea that they just didn't know who Yoav Gallant was, one of the most senior figures in Israel's military, is fundamentally ridiculous. And so this would mean that
it kind of makes sense to me. They live in America now. They're not as understanding of what's going on over there. Again, you know, my biggest problem with this more than anything else, it's that the criticism comes without context. If this guy said the exact same thing while acknowledging the fact that the reason that they were saying it was because Gallant wanted to end the war at that point and Netanyahu got rid of him because he wanted to end the war, and then he went on this, I'd be like, okay, that's fair, but he's not doing that. He's intentionally omitting that information, and he knows that's the context of it. And like, why would you do that? It's because you want to portray this dishonestly. You could still portray it while keeping that context in there and still make a reasonable argument and say like, yeah, it seems stupid that you wouldn't know who this person is. You're both Israeli citizens, blah, 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 blah. You can make that argument, but you just refuse to. And that's what's so strange to me. It just oozes dishonesty. That's my problem.
Hila endorsed a man whose war crimes far eclipse any of those perpetrated by the organizations that Ethan thinks Hassan should be deplatformed for portraying in even a semi-positive light and offering context for why they do what they do. So why is it that Ethan just does not carry the same...
The irony here is that Ethan and Hila both apologize for this like almost immediately, and Hassan never apologizes when he does terrible things. You know, like justifies Russia's occupation of Crimea, which is pretty fucked up. Okay.
Same energy for when it comes to his wife in comparison to Hassan Piker.
Energy.
And what makes this even worse is that Ethan didn't just let Hila get away with this with basically no pushback. He actually took to his Instagram stories to defend her, arguing that the quote was a result of being after October the 7th.
Quotes from October 7th and is a direct response to October 7th terror attacks. I think it's a reasonable assumption that he was talking about Hamas militants that killed civilians the day before. Either way, this is the guy in the BB's war cabinet that wanted to end the war, and he was just fired. If you care about war ending, then you agree with Hila. I mean, that's a reasonable argument that he's making. People are going to be more riled up after they were just attacked because Hamas did attack them. And then But again, what he's saying is correct here. I don't understand. Are you going to read that part, or are you just going to leave it on the screen?
I mean, he doesn't provide this kind of charity to people like Nasrallah or people from Lebanon, people in the Houthis or wherever, who have suffered under Western imperialism and larger terror attacks than October the 7th. No, he just thinks that this applies to Israelis only, and he doesn't seem fussed that his wife endorsed a man who referred to Palestinians as human animals, because whilst he seeks to make the distinction and say, oh, he was probably only talking about Hamas, the thing is that this was the man who...
Whoa, they look so similar. That's weird.
...oversaw the Gaza genocide that Ethan says he condemns, but he doesn't mind this man referring to Palestinians as human animals so as to establish them as subhumans worthy of death. No, he thinks that that's completely fine because he was a moderating voice who wanted to end the war. But he didn't want to end the war because of his opposition to the Gaza genocide.
Was he calling Palestinians human animals, or was he calling Hamas?
מצור מוחלט על העיר עזה. אין חשמל, אין מזון.
Yeah, this is right after October 7th, right?
אין מים, אין דלק. הכל סגור. אנחנו נלחמים בחיות אדם ואנחנו נוהגים בהתאם.
Yeah, no, it sounds, I mean, if you want to be charitable, I don't think I would be. It sounds like he doesn't seem to care about the Palestinian people, so sure, fair enough.
He just wanted to end the war because he thought all of Israel's aims had been achieved, and that no more aims could be achieved via military means. So all of the destruction and mass killing that was already perpetrated in the Gaza Strip, well, he thought that was enough.
Are you saying that you don't think it's enough? I'm not understanding your argument. It doesn't even make sense to me. What's your argument here? I don't understand. Your argument's that he didn't want to stop for humanitarian reasons, but he still wanted to stop. And Netanyahu booted him because he wanted to stop, right? We don't... Okay.
This isn't even the first time that Ethan or Gila have displayed their love for a figure who is undeniably implicated in racially motivated slaughter. Take George Bush, for example, who in this 2017 clip, Ethan says he loves.
I gotta tell you, I saw George Bush on what was it, Jimmy Kimmel? And I was like, man, I love this guy. I love George Bush.
As a dude,
he's a fucking...
George Bush
he's got a lot of character.
He's out there, dude.
You know, he's like painting. He just made a book of portraits. He's drawing portraits of veterans.
This was a guy who said...
I don't know, man. We're going back to 2017 when he said George Bush was a good guy. Gee, where the fuck do you get? Where do you get this stuff from? What are you gonna go find my fucking cum-covered crusty sock under the couch? Like, what the fuck?
Said he wanted to launch a crusade in the Middle East and then went on to do so.
And the American people...
Yeah, he's an idiot, absolutely. But I just feel like he's a fucking idiot.
We're beginning to understand. This crusade, this war on terrorism.
Oh, you said that you like Obama a lot? Well, didn't he fucking drone strike a bunch of people? Like, I don't know. You know what I mean? Like, I miss George Bush. We got fucking Donald Trump now. That guy sucks. That guy's pretty bad. I wish Obama had a drone strike available, of course, for my Call of Duty gameplay.
It's going to take a while.
Slaughtering hundreds of thousands of Iraqi people, all
terrible.
in the name of oil. Something which Alan Greenspan, the former chairman of
Not even that hard to pronounce, but maybe it's hard to pronounce for him because George Bush is an idiot.
the Federal Reserve, literally
Didn't Dick Cheney like manipulate George Bush because Dick Cheney's like a real scumbag piece of shit, you know?
he admitted in 2006.
Hey, this is journalism. It's so weird. It's so weird. Motherfuckers want journalism, and when I'm trying to do journalism, they go, "Why are you doing that?" What do you mean? I'm just chilling. We're just vibing. Yeah.
All right, so here's how you counter this clip. What you do is you go through the whole thing and be like, hey, here are some like really good questions Hassan asked the guy. Like when Hassan was like that's all you got to show. It's like, hey, here's a really good nuanced question he talked about. And maybe all this is out of context. And he saved all the silly stuff for the end.
Just vibing. We're vibing big time.
Hassan uncritically interviewed this kid for about an hour. It was the most brazen display of disgusting terrorist propaganda that I have maybe ever seen in Western media.
So all this guy has to do is have watched that full thing and go, hey, the first 45 minutes were really critical conversation with this young man about his role as a pirate. Arg. And Ethan took the last 15 minutes of it and made it seem like the whole thing was silly when he just saved some of the silly, lighthearted questions for the end. That's not what happened from my understanding, but if it is what happened, that's all you have to do. And we're fucked, Steve, from Sex and the City. I'll bend over like Miranda right now. That's all you got to do. Prove me wrong, and I will bend over like Miranda. Hit it, boy.
So if a 19-year-old from Yemen, who isn't even actually a member of the Houthis, but
What, didn't he say he was?
simply supports them, is an evil terrorist who shouldn't be allowed a platform,
I'm pretty sure that kid said he was a fucking terrorist pirate.
what does that make Ethan and Healer, people who endorse war criminals responsible for the slaughter of far more people than the Houthis?
Left or right, I always thought that, despite our differences, there was one thing we could all agree on. And what was that?
The 555 deal at Domino's, that's no longer available. Hey, you know what sucks though, for real? Now Domino's does this thing where it's like $6.99 for like multiple items. 2-topping pizza sounds great. You go to order the pizza, everything is like, oh, you want this crust, $2 more. This crust, $4 more. You want wings on the bone? It's an extra $2. The fuck is going on here? What? You know? But anyway, yeah, I'm pretty sure this kid was like, even Hassan even commented that he was media trained.
That we love America and everything she stands for.
And then there's this part of the
I
content,
think he was memeing a little bit there, but you know.
which has leapt out to me every single time I watched it.
Let's hear it.
Why on earth would you say that everyone can agree on loving America? This is most certainly not a universal position.
Yeah, so Ethan is doing a thing called sarcasm there and having a bit of a fun time. And you're doing a thing called having autism and not understanding the joke. By the way, some of my favorite people have autism. Okay? So relax. I'm not saying anything negatively. But I did try to go on a date with a girl with autism and it did not go well. She didn't understand my humor. Okay? She did not get my humor at all. So...
From Iraq to Cambodia, to Vietnam, to Afghanistan, to Korea, across the entire world, tens of millions, hundreds of millions, if not billions of people have suffered under the yoke of American imperialism just over the last century.
That's true. But there's also been ways that they have benefited, and we know that for a fact because now that we're being really dumb pieces of shit when it comes to trade, people are starting to turn away from us because we would give some developing countries good trade deals because to help them develop. Because it was just like the right thing to do. And you know what? It also does give us positive influence over them. And now they're all reeling and going like, wait a minute, United States? All the positives, because there are positives to our influence in the world. Better than Russia or China having influence, non-Western countries that don't have, you know, freedom for gay people. You should be concerned with that. I am. But we know that we have a positive impact. I'm not saying it's more positive than negative. But I'm just saying we have a pretty profoundly positive impact, even if it maybe is less positive than negative, you know? Because we're getting a lot of shit going on right now. A lot. Because we're fucking different countries over on trade because Donald Trump is a threat to democracy.
And even the wider nexus of states that the United States supports is obscene. Take its two current closest allies in the Middle East, the United Arab Emirates and Israel. Both are countries currently facing genocide cases at the International Court of Justice. The United Arab Emirates for its involvement in Sudan and Israel for its horrifying crimes in Gaza, which absolutely would not be possible without the rhetorical and material support that it was offered by both the Biden administration and the current Trump administration.
Not really. Like, I think people have to understand something when it comes to powerful, like America's powerful Middle Eastern allies, like Israel. If we don't support them, then Russia or China will sweep back in and support them. And it's like a terrible thing to say, but they have a strategic position in the Middle East. They're our strongest Middle Eastern ally. If we stop supporting them, Russia swoops in. Like Russia used to support them, or China swoops in. The unfortunate reality is that like a lot of these, there's a lot of pieces to this puzzle. And while we might not like America having an influence on other countries, it's better than China or Russia. Russia assassinates political opponents. China sucks. They're not as free as us as countries. The reason why labor in China is so cheap is because they don't have human rights over there. Right? So it's not perfect, but you guys have to acknowledge like the unfortunate reality of the world. Because it just is part of it. And so, like, yeah, we don't go hard enough on Israel. We don't. But do you think that Russia would? Do you think that China would? Like, we're talking about China, who they put Muslims in camps with no media access. And Hassan doesn't seem too fazed by that, by the way. I know that it ended at, like, the end of 2023, but you'd still be like, hey, that's really bad. Those people were... What about the ones that are missing? He didn't seem to be too fazed by it. And we know just because something ends doesn't mean that it's purely over. If you're willing to put people in a camp, your country still treats those people like shit, right? We still haven't gotten 100% there with black people, all right? And they gave us so many amazing things. Delicious food. and heartburn when I eat it. But yeah, I think it's something that needs to be acknowledged.
If Israel didn't have the massive amounts of military aid, which America only sells to them so they can maintain an edge over other countries in the region, it would stand no chance against countries like Iran. And so to sit there and say, oh, I love America and we all agree on this, whilst America is responsible for the genocide that he claims to simultaneously condemn.
Are you saying like Iran is good? Don't they have like no freedoms for their people? I feel like that's a factor here. Most Middle Eastern countries don't have basic freedoms for their people. That doesn't justify killing people in Gaza, just be clear. But I feel like painting it as like Iran good, Israel bad, that just seems dumb as shit to me, right? Like, Israel is objectively freer for their people and other people. I know people will be like, well, they're an ethno-state. Like, yeah, pretty much like every place in the Middle East is a fucking ethno-state. But they are a freer ethno-state. I know that sounds terrible. Well, if you compare Israel to a Western country, they're terrible. They're fucking like, you know, an ethno-state that's terrible. If you compare them to other Middle Eastern countries, they're pretty solid. I mean, like 20% of their population is Palestinian and they vote and they take part in office. Are they treated the same? Absolutely not. That's a problem. But, you know, some of the surrounding countries, some of them, they think gay people are bad and they kill them. So that's not good.
Is fundamentally ridiculous, and it really does show you.
Sorry, something fell and made me really scared.
That Ethan just does not like anything which is anti-Western. Any group who is anti-West are differently evil. They are
because he doesn't like women. He prefers Uncle West. You know what I'm saying?
Monstrous savages whose ideology has no explanation, who are fueled by anti-Semitic hatred.
Bro, no, I'm gonna tell you something. People like these other people, they have an ideology that fuels them. It's called religion, and religion's not great. It doesn't matter if it's Islam, Judaism, or Christianity, or any of the other ones. Okay? It's just like, hey, fucking kill people that aren't yours. That's pretty much what the Bible, all the religious texts say. By the way, same goes for Israel. I feel like, you know, don't both these groups think that they have like a fucking, the land is promised to them? A book told them that? Come on. It's crazy. White teenagers for Palestine is showing up. True. We need more white teenagers. We need more of them.
In most cases. But when it comes to the obscene violence of the United States, oh, well, you know, it's just politics and we all love it, really. I do not think the Orientalism which dominates Ethan Klein's thought could be any more clear. He sees a 19-year-old from Yemen, Rashid al-Haddad, as a monstrous, violent savage who is an anti-Semitic beast, which...
Well, the kid says that he's part of the Houthi pirates. So he's probably just a young, dumb kid, but, you know, so you can make that argument that maybe he doesn't know what he's getting himself into, but like he said, he's part of them. At least he's cosplaying as them. Either that or he's cosplaying as Luffy. I don't really remember which one it was. I didn't catch all of the conversation.
By the way, the kid did apologize for, but he has no problem with his own thought.
Where do you apologize? Show that to me. I'll put like a bicycle tire pump in my nuts and I'll pump them up till they explode. Show me that where he goes, hey, I'm like really sorry for hating the Jews.
He never wants to confront the fact that he refers to America as something which we all love, even though it was the country which sold advanced weaponry to Saudi Arabia as it bombed Yemeni civilians. It was the country that...
Yemeni civilians? More like too many civilians. Am I right, guys? Fist bump for justice and peace around the world. I think it's a beautiful thing. I don't know if I'm towing the line on these jokes, by the way. That might have been a rough one. I don't know.
Refueled Saudi planes as they tore Yemeni weddings and other social events to pieces with their horrifying bombardment. It was the one who trained their...
It's terrible that we're giving money to these different Middle Eastern countries because we think they're all savages. Wait, my head hurts now. Wait a minute. I'm not saying one faction is right over the other one. I'm just saying that this whole narrative that we think that they're savages as we like try to make alliances with other of them kind of seems silly.
Pilots as they manufactured a siege and starved the people of Yemen. And this is what defined Rashid al-Haddad's life. And Ethan couldn't have some sympathy and say, you know what, this is what motivates this guy. This is...
You know, maybe it would have helped if Hassan asked those questions about his upbringing in his non-critical hour-long conversation about anime. Maybe it would have been cool if we got that context from him.
Why many Yemenis don't actually like the West. But instead of doing that, Ethan would rather sit there and essentialize...
Didn't the Houthis restore slavery in Yemen? Shh, don't say that, dude. It doesn't fit the narrative, bro. Stop. Stop it. Stop it.
Them and try and portray this as it is some kind of innate anti-Semitism, some random hatred of the West.
I'll never take this guy seriously. I can't do it. I can't do it. I cannot take the fucking Steve lookalike seriously. I just can't do it. I'll never look at this guy and go, yeah, credibility. Look at this. Come on. Miranda? He turned her a lesbian. She's a lesbian. Did you guys know that? I can't tell you. I can't do it. I can't do it, dude.
The content nuke, Ethan literally refers to the Houthis as the bad guys.
All right, so...
Yeah, well, I think it's because they're a terrorist organization.
These guys are clearly the bad guys. So my question is, how does Hassan cover such a genocidal, violent, misogynistic, homophobic, terroristic organization?
These things are all true, by the way. They don't like women that much.
Which really does show his childish, marvelized understanding of politics, because if you
Yeah, I think it's based when people treat women like shit.
think that the Houthis are somehow the evil baddies, and America and Israel are some kind of axis of good, then I don't know what to say to you. You have the political acumen of a child.
We're probably a little better. Probably a little better to live in these countries, you know what I'm saying?
And Ethan's argument as to why they're the bad guys is the classic Orientalist tropes. He refers to their slavery, based on some rather dubious evidence published by pro-Saudi outlets.
Okay.
And Ethan acts as if it is...
He also references the fact that their women don't have equal rights too. How do we... This is what I'm talking about. Like, when it comes down to it, the criticism can never be proportionate. It has to be like, oh, Ethan criticizes these terrorist organizations? Well, actually, everything that they said about slavery and hating women, it's all fake news. Donald Trump 2028, am I right, guys? Like, this is why I can't take you guys seriously. It's fucking ridiculous.
Bizarre in his recent lawsuit to quibble with the State Department or what Saudi Arabian news outlets are saying, but anyone with a basic knowledge of how you write an academic essay or make an argument would tell you, well, if the Saudis are bombing the hell out of the Yemeni people and trying to claim that the Houthis are the evil of all evils, they might be willing to make things up. But
true, they might be, that's true. But are they? I don't know.
Is most important to note about all
Maybe they really don't care, but they're also saying it's true.
Ethan's condemnations of the Houthis for their regressive politics is that Israel, the progressive nation, which along with America he sees as the good guys, could be accused of all of these same things to a horrifying extent. I mean, take Israel's use of slavery. A recent article which appeared in Haaretz referred to the IOF practice of Israelis taking Palestinians as human shields and sometimes killing them for fun as a form of slavery.
Damn, that's crazy. Is that real? Let's just read. This is the article he's referencing. Innocent Palestinians are regularly forced by soldiers to enter houses in Gaza to make sure that there are no terrorists or explosives. So why is the IDF's Military Police Criminal Investigation Division opening only 6 investigations into the use of human shields? In Gaza, human shields are used by Israeli soldiers at least 6 times a day. I started in Gaza for 9 months, and the first came across these procedures called a mosquito protocol in December 2023. It was only 2 months into the ground offensive, long before there was a sword of dogs from the IDF's canine unit. Some guy, probably Jewish, who were Akets, were used for this purpose. This became an insane unofficial excuse for the insane unofficial procedure. I didn't realize how ubiquitous human shields were. Today, almost every platoon keeps a shawish, and no infantry force enters a house before a shawish clears it. Interesting. The innocent Palestinians are forced to enter the houses. Wow, interesting. I never heard of this before. I mean, interesting. There seems to be some conversation about this. I don't think it's proven, but if it's true, it's pretty fucked up that they find people. From what I see, they're not like paid individuals. They find people that they detain. I think their argument is that they might be Hamas, maybe sometimes, but it's probably pretty loose. Yeah, it's pretty fucked up. It's pretty fucked up stuff. It's pretty fucked up stuff, guys.
Allies, the people who oppose the Houthis, the good guys, according to Ethan Klein, the nexus of pro-West.
I will say, I think if Ethan knew about this, he'd probably say it was really good. He'd be like, wow, this is amazing. He'd probably say it was pretty bad. He'd probably be like, oh, that's actually disgusting. And it would probably align with his idea that Netanyahu's a war criminal. I don't know if you know that, but...
States. You have Saudi Arabia, most of the Gulf countries, who use the kafala system.
Regulates the lives of 10 millions of migrant laborers in the Middle East, but growing outrage over human rights abuses, racism, and gender discrimination has fueled calls for reform. Oh, okay, it's good that they're reforming that.
Western states. You have Saudi Arabia, most of the Gulf countries, who use the kafala system, something which is equivalent to modern slavery. They invite foreign workers over under promises that they're going to find new and great lives in Saudi Arabia. Then they take their passports and effectively offer them no rights. And many people have referred to this as modern slavery. So why is it the nexus of pro-Western states are the good guys in Ethan's political understanding?
Well, I think the problem that you're operating on is that he made a joke, and you're just half the video is predicated on a joke about how America is the best that he made offhand in the beginning of his video. And I will say I did call it that people weren't going to understand the joke and they were going to go on a fucking tirade about it. But okay.
Because whilst Ethan might say, well, I'll condemn Israel, I'll condemn Saudi Arabia, this is what America and Israel have helped to set up and maintain in the Middle East for decades now.
I just want to be clear. Maybe this comes off as a little ignorant. The concept that the Middle East would be like super progressive, if America hadn't influenced them, is kind of ridiculous, no? I mean, isn't Saudi Arabia like one of the richest countries in the Middle East, and they still engage in these like inhumane tactics, right? Yeah, so Saudi Arabia has a lot of money. They do get backing from the United States in different ways. We have freedoms for people, and they still don't have freedoms for women and gay people. So just to be clear, this concept that like the West is the reason that they're not like, you know, accepting of different people is kind of stupid. But okay.
Now, they want dictatorial regimes like those of Saudi Arabia, the United Arab Emirates, because these keep people quiet. You know, they will perhaps normalize with Israel, allow it to carry out its ethnic cleansing in the West Bank, the Gaza Strip, destroy any hopes of a Palestinian state, whilst they hide behind the idea of a two-state solution. Any time that these things are perpetrated by an ally of the West, it doesn't matter. It's not a problem which is in...
Yeah, so I'm looking into like the claims in the conversation about how Iran basically reflected, you know, American society in the 1970s, which was still regressive, but for the time it was progressive. And there's like, it's iffy when it comes to it. There were certain urban areas that exhibited, you know, Western modernization. This was pushed by the rule of Shah. I don't know if that's how you would say it. Which was an authoritarian regime. It's possible if left to its own devices, it would have produced something close to America. That is possible. But the idea that it was like a 1-to-1, I think, is a little bit silly considering the rule. But maybe I'm wrong about my interpretation of this event. Yeah, under the rule, I guess the Shah. I guess it's like some kind of king or something. Yeah, was it the Shah of Iran? But yeah, this person was an authoritarian, basically dictator. Oh wait a minute, am I fucking reading words wrong? Hold on a second. I am reading it wrong. It's autocratic, but that's pretty much the same thing. Right to who has absolute power. Yeah, so I mean, it's totally possible if left to their own devices, they would have continued to like become more Western and more accepting. It's also possible that's not true. We don't really know. Okay, so it was a royal family. Yeah. So, I mean, I don't think it was like 1-to-1 to this idea that they were like super progressive in this very limited time period when they were literally under like the rule of a dictatorship. So, I don't know, something to keep in mind.
Indicative of how rotten and evil these ideologies are to the core.
Rotten
Instead, for
evil.
Ethan, it is just okay. It is something
just
that is
okay.
basically not even worth mentioning because it's perpetrated by the allies of the country that he so loves. Now, Ethan, the
I mean, again, you're referring to a time where a penis potato was in charge. A dictator. That's the joke.
pro-Palestine content creator, like many other pro-Israel news outlets and
Papa Gut, look who America supported in the revolutionary against the Shah. Well, I'm looking at this and it says that we did not support the overthrowing of the, what is it? I mean, am I saying this right? But anyway, we didn't support the overthrowing. Is this wrong?
Shah.
I was right, Shah. It says, no, the United States did not support the overthrowing of the Shah of Iran in the 1970s. In fact, the U.S. maintained a close relationship with the Shah during the period, viewing Iran as a crucial ally in the region and a bulwark against Soviet influence. Here's a breakdown. U.S. support for the Shah throughout the 1960s and 70s. The U.S. provided significant military and economic aid to the Shah's regime. The U.S. saw the Shah as a pro-Western and anti-communist leader and valued Iran's strategic importance in the Middle East. So what are we talking about? While the Carter administration later became uncomfortable with the Shah's increasingly authoritarian rule and human rights record, there's no evidence to suggest the U.S. actively sought his overthrowing in the 1970s. So if we take this as a fact, they started to de-escalate their support of this state as they became more authoritarian. Maybe that's not true, but that's what I'm seeing here. Is that not true? Are we referring to this, the 1979 revolution? The 1979 Iranian Revolution, which led to the overthrow of the Shah and the establishment of the Islamic Republic, was a popular uprising driven by internal Iranian factors through anti-American sentiment. Though anti-American sentiment did play a part, the U.S. was largely caught by surprise by the speed and scope of the revolution. Are we saying that this is not So what exactly are we saying here? Like, if I'm wrong about something, I want to know. I want to understand what I'm wrong about. But what I'm looking here suggests otherwise. Like, is there something that I'm missing here? Like, anyway, if you want to give me a resource to look at, a credible resource, I have no problem with it. But this concept that we overthrew a westernized push in Iran in the 1970s seems to be ridiculous. I don't know. But maybe, again, you could push me in the right direction, but from everything I'm seeing, what you're saying is not true.
Zionist content creators online chooses to focus on the Houthi slogan, "Death to America, a curse upon the Jews, death to Israel, victory to Islam."
That seems like a pretty big thing to focus on, no?
And Houthi slogan, "Death to America." News outlets and the definitely pro-Palestine content creator, like many other pro-Israel news outlets and Zionist content creators online, chooses to focus on the Houthi slogan, "Death to America, a curse upon the Jews, death to Israel, victory to Islam."
If I was running around saying I really hate black people a lot, would you show any nuance in the way I treated black people? I'm a little confused about what your point here is, that people would take their slogan as like, hey, that's not good. We need to look at that with some nuance. What are we doing here?
And whenever I've watched someone's video, they've highlighted that it's just a slogan from people who are oppressed. But what I
mean, that's probably your best argument, no?
Don't think they've noted is that Ethan comes from a country with elected officials like Randy Fine. I mean, let's just read out one of the statements that he put out on Twitter. "There is no suffering adequate for these animals. May the streets of Gaza overflow with blood." This man,
well, that guy seems pretty terrible. Is Ethan his best friend?
Who is part of the most powerful government in the world that is actually making the streets of Gaza overflow with blood currently, and has been for a year and a half. Well, that's okay, we don't focus on those as representing the rotten nature of Western society.
What the fuck is I don't even know, where did we go here?
A pervasiveness of terrorism. No, that's the country that Ethan loves.
Oh, some random representative from probably Florida? Okay. At least we're getting out our teenaged angst. Go come in a sock, I think. Probably better off.
Society, a pervasiveness of terrorism. No, that's the country that Ethan loves. For Ethan,
so far, a third of this video has been melting down over a joke Ethan made at the beginning of his Hassan video. It's incredible stuff.
Whose attacks on Israel pertain specifically to...
Basically, what's happening right now is Ethan Klein says that he likes regular Coke, and this guy is going on an absolute tirade about childhood diabetes. That is the best analogy for this video so far. I just want you to understand that. That's what's happening here.
To Israel's genocide in the Gaza Strip. I mean, they literally stopped when there was a ceasefire. He is more obsessed with their slogans than the comments and sayings of high-up US officials about exterminating people in the Gaza Strip. And
high-up US officials? And this guy used to be a gambling representative. That's the kind of guy we need in America. Somebody willing to gamble with the United States, just like Trump. We're losing the gamble, but...
And it's not just Randy Fine. You've got others like Brian Mast and many, many other senior American politicians who are happy to talk about
like old people
exterminating Palestinians.
I agree. Those people are pieces of shit.
As Israel,
thankfully, your guy did not urge people to vote against all of those people. One of the biggest problems you're going to have here is Hassan decided not to throw active outward support of Kamala Harris, who would have been better for Palestine, because she wasn't radical enough. And while you sit here and virtue signal about like Republicans being bad about what they're saying about Palestine, which I agree with, you guys, were part of the problem. I mean, this guy's British, I think, or something, non-American, so I guess he doesn't care about that point, but I think that's a pretty good point. We need to stop acting like kids that throw away the fucking system when we don't get everything we want.
Their closest ally actually did that.
I would encourage the other side to not so lightly throw around the idea of innocent Palestinian civilians, as is frequently said. I don't think we would so lightly throw around the term innocent Nazi civilians during World War II.
Oh, well, this guy's got a mental disorder.
The Houthis are not doing that. Theirs may be a slogan which people find offensive. However, ultimately, they are not actually perpetrating the thing.
I like that. If all your evidence is based upon quotes from people no longer in power, then your argument is as powerful as a child's spectrum. I don't even know what that means. But I don't know what that means, brother, but I agree, I guess. I don't know.
That they are claiming. But let's not just focus
on
it.
I missed that.
Ultimately, they are not actually perpetrating the things that they are claiming. But let's not just focus
What?
on America, the head of the snake. Let's also focus
Oh my
on
god, this
Israel
whole video is going to be about the child to diabetes.
and the slogans that they love, because they're part of Ethan Klein's magical Avengers team who fight against the bad guys like the Houthis, Hezbollah, and Hamas. But here's an article by the Israeli Gershon Shafir from 1984, who notes that at present, Arabs are compared in sophisticated religious exegesis to the 7 Canaanite nations and to Amalek, and
This is from 19 what?
by the Israeli Gershon Shafir from 1984, who notes that at present
1984?
Arabs are compared in sophisticated religious exegesis to the 7 Canaanite nations and to Amalek, and in a popular utterance to a donkey. Now,
Oh, so he doesn't like them and their religion? Oh, okay. I'm sure they feel the same way.
I think that this is particularly important because what
Not really. It's from 1984, no?
you have here is documentation from the 1980s, before Benjamin Netanyahu had ever been Prime Minister, of Israelis referring to Palestinians as Amalek, a biblical enemy of Israel who must be wiped from the face of the earth. The
Yeah, that makes sense. Of course. Don't all these different groups hate each other. Because they're all religious entities that think that they have claim to holy lands.
Same with the 7 Canaanite nations, the people who had to be destroyed for the existence of Israel. Why is it that people like Ethan love to talk about the Houthi slogans, but don't like to talk about these? And this isn't even where it...
Isn't this from 1984, though? Isn't that Houthi slogan from today? And you're talking about 1984? I'm thinking that 1984 was 40 fucking years ago. But you know what? What the fuck do I know?
ends. What I'd also like to note is that in the 1980s, the slogan, "Death to Arabs," became popular, to the point where Heike Grossman, an Israeli member of the Knesset and also a Holocaust survivor, would note that she found it so awful because the slogan was only one word different to the one that the Germans used to chant at her, and that still rung in her ears.
So are we saying that Ethan would love that? I don't understand what this guy's point is here. Hey, baby.
And it's worth noting
How you doing, my love?
that in the 1980s, this didn't end at just chanting "Death to Arabs" at Palestinians. No,
Probably
multiple
caused them
Palestinians
to
were
kill each
attacked,
other.
and the Israeli
Yep, I
press
bet.
made some shocking discoveries in the Israeli military. They found squads of Israeli soldiers referring to themselves as the Mengele unit, who had extensive plans to mass murder Palestinians. So
Yeah, I wouldn't doubt it. Yeah, I believe like all of this. You know, the history of Israel-Palestine, just Israel's presence in the Middle East. I mean, it starts with they get genocided in World War II. They're given land by the UN, but that land was given to them. But that land also displaced a bunch of Palestinians, and there's been a constant conflict for the past 100 years because of it, 80 years because of it, right? Like, it's a complicated measure. I think the Jews deserve a place of their own, but at the same time, they displace people. There needs to be, in my opinion, reparations, but there's constant wars and battles and different things going on here. It was started in a time when, you know, barriers or borders weren't as hardly drawn. Like, there's a conversation to have, but you can't just displace like 8 million Jews. So what do? Oh, I think that we do a two-state solution, and we do reparations to Palestine and help them rebuild. I don't know. Is it a hot take?
why is it that Ethan thinks that, you know, someone who is a 19-year-old who supports the Houthis is a bad guy? He's an evil
a bad
terrorist.
guy.
But the same doesn't go for all Israelis. You know, he might say, well, I don't like this excess. I don't...
Because not all Israelis even support Netanyahu, right? Like, that's the thing. It's not that he's from Yemen or whatever. It's that he supports the Houthis. Like, I feel like this is important. 87% of Israelis think the prime minister should take responsibility for the events of October 7th. That speaks something to me. It says to me that they don't believe that they don't believe in these actions at the very least. They don't support these actions. This kid was putting up fucking memes about putting, you know, wooden stakes through Jews. I don't know what you're talking about.
support this kind of thing. Does every single Yemeni who rejects Israel, protests against it, and wants to take up arms against it, hold horrifying anti-Semitic views?
Probably. They want to take up arms against it? I don't know. Do they think that, like, the Jews are bad? I don't know. I feel like that's a factor. I mean, honestly, it's probably pretty complicated. I really wouldn't be able to know the specifics. But again, this wasn't just some kid saying that, like, oh, he didn't like that Israel did things. He was a kid that was part of a terrorist organization that was about killing Jews. It's like their motto is, hey, let's kill the Jews.
No. There are many who just oppose the state of Israel because its treatment of Palestinians and hold a strong disdain for America because of what it has helped to do to their country for decades. But luckily for Ethan, you know, this was the 1980s. The chant "Death to Arabs," it's not so popular anymore. You know, just a couple of fringe Israelis, they were the guys chanting it and stuff, you know. Not everyone. Oh wait, hang on a second.
No, back then it was probably more of the accepted sentiment.
One of its key proponents who used to chant it a lot, Itamar Ben-Gvir, is now Israel's Minister of National Security. Oh, it's okay though. He doesn't actually say death to Arabs anymore. Here's a video of him saying that he now says death to terrorists and encourages others because it is legal with a government stamp of approval.
Seems like a pretty bad guy, huh? Oh yeah, this guy's a far-right extremist inside of and he served in the minister. Let's see, far-right politician lawyer who has served as the Minister of National Security since 2025. Oh yeah, this doesn't surprise me at all that there's a massive right-wing uptick in Israel. This is happening around the world because we allowed Donald Trump to get elected as president, and it has caused a fucking a domino effect around the world. Absolutely, this is like the rise of like potential far-right parties. Absolutely, 100%. This is totally a threat. Sure.
Death to Arabs anymore. Here's a video of him saying that he now says death to terrorists and encourages others because it is legal with a government stamp of approval. But when you consider that this man refers to all Palestinians as terrorists, including the mother of an autistic Palestinian who was murdered in cold blood by Israeli security...
I don't think she needs to be autistic to get murdered and be, I don't know, you know, still pretty bad.
...forces. What is there to say? This guy has transformed Israel's prisons into even worse torture dungeons than...
I don't doubt it.
...than they already were. I mean, there's decades of the horror...
I'll tell you, somebody who's living through the worst president in the entirety of the United States being a fucking dictator... Unfortunately, there are fucking morons that don't quite understand the scope of what's going on in the country, and they're allowing this type of behavior to happen because they're incredibly uneducated, you know? I imagine there's a similarity in Israel. Is this guy elected, or is he somebody that's put in by Netanyahu? I don't understand how their shit works.
...horrifying treatment by Israeli prison officers of Palestinians, but it's only worsened in recent years. And Ethan doesn't see this as a sickness within Israeli society. He doesn't see it as indicative of the monstrous nature of their ideology, their movement.
What? I've heard Ethan literally say that Benjamin Netanyahu is a war criminal. I don't understand how you could say that he wouldn't disavow it. I don't understand. What?
He thinks that there is still something redeemable about Israel.
There. Oh, okay.
But what is there redeemable about this? Why is it that you...
Okay. This is one of like the biggest problems where we come into play. We really, these guys, they never do this, and I should call it out sooner. These guys will never say what they think should happen to Israel. Right? Saying there's nothing redeemable about Israel is basically, what would you do? Do you think Israel should just disband and all the Jews should die? No. They were living really happy before Israel was constituted. No, they weren't. There are people that live there. They're a generally progressive society. There is. Okay, I don't understand. What do you think that should happen though? Like, these people usually want Israel to be completely destroyed, and just the Jews have nowhere to go. That's what it seems like they would want, I guess. I don't really understand. What do you think that should happen to the state of Israel is my question. Because a lot of these guys will insinuate that they wish that the country would be disbanded and that all the Jews would be killed. Because that's what would happen if we disbanded Israel.
You would make a video this long condemning Hassan Piker for interviewing a 19-year-old, for showing Houthi music videos. Why is it that you would spend...
Houthi music videos? You mean the fucking terrorist, like shoot guns in the air, death to all Jews videos? That's a wild interpretation, brother.
...your time doing this when Israelis are out here doing these kind of things. And it does not end there. One of the other most common chants that you consistently hear from Israeli soldiers is "May your village burn." Here's a video of the Israeli soldiers chanting it before...
That's one of the most common chants? They'll chant that? Like, most commonly?
...they go out and actually do that in Gaza.
This is just a music video, I thought. Isn't terrorist propaganda just music videos? What do you mean? It's all music videos now, guys. Anytime somebody does a terrorism, it's just a music video. And if it's going to be a terrorism, if it's just a music video when it's a fucking, you know, some kind of fucking, I don't know, other terrorist organization, then it's got to be the same thing for the IDF, right? I don't understand. Like, we have to go both ways here, right? Like, you can't just say one of them is a terrorist and the other one's not. If these guys are actually chanting "May their village burn," that's fucked up and terrible. But if you're gonna talk about how, like, a music video you know, a terrorist music video is just a silly music video that's like fun and like, I mean, it goes both ways, no? So everything I'm looking into is that, just be clear, this is probably a real video of soldiers doing this, which is disgusting and wrong. The idea that this is one of the most frequent usages of it is pushing this idea that like all Israelis want like all Palestinians to die. I don't know. This is just, it's dishonest. There's no like actual recorded consistent case of this happening. Incredible. Here we go, guys.
Israel's wrong. The settlements should be removed. Netanyahu's a war criminal.
I'm sorry. Didn't you just say that Ethan would support everything? Wait, what? Wait a minute. Oh no! The narrative's dying in real time. Oh no.
Burn, baby. This house is on fire. This house is on fire.
This is a man.
Just to be clear, I know you guys are like, oh, that's really terrible. That's not like a Gazan civilian home. That's just an Ariana Grande concert.
Man who claims that he thinks there is a genocide in the Gaza Strip, yet he spends his time talking about the Houthi slogans. He doesn't talk about the Israeli slogans. He doesn't talk about this as a sickness in Israeli society.
What's the Israeli slogan of today? I don't understand what you're saying. What? Ethan is Jewish, and there's a big Western wave of white boys that might be girls talking about how it's justifiable to eradicate Israel and wipe it off the map and how it shouldn't exist. That's why Ethan talks about it, and he's Jewish. You would expect him to talk about it. But he acknowledges that, like, the Palestinian struggle is worse than the Israeli one. This should be the clip.
Gazans have lost a lot more than Israelis. 40,000 people have died, and
They have magical bullets. It's not perfect.
numbers. Gazans have lost.
They have magical bullets. It's not perfect.
Sorry.
And neighborhoods have been completely flattened during this war. And while we should keep their plight at the top of our minds at all time, it also doesn't mean that we should disregard those have been completely. Of course, if you compare the
Hold on. We're gonna get
so good. They have magical bullets.
We're gonna get
perfect.
Stop getting pissed.
Of course, if you compare the raw numbers, Gazans have lost a lot more than Israelis. 40,000 people have died, and neighborhoods have been completely flattened during this war. And while we should keep their plight at the top of our minds at all time, it also doesn't mean that we should disregard the lives of the Jewish people who are also affected by this, even if their suffering on the whole is not as great.
Is that not him acknowledging the Palestinians have it worse? He just doesn't like the rise of anti-Semitism? Okay. Cool, man.
I've said it over and over again. He sees Yemenis and Middle Easterners who are not Jewish from Israel as monstrous savages, whose ideologies are different, whose motivations are different to those of Israel, Jewish people, and Americans. He is a man who exceptionalizes the state of Israel in order to make himself feel better about his horrifying right-wing views, which justify the slaughter of scores and scores of colonized people across the entire region. But all of that's okay because, as Ethan puts it, they're the bad guys.
Israeli Rudy was saying that Palestinians are taught at 2 years old to kill Americans.
That's pretty spicy.
Yeah. Do we have that one?
Like, come on,
the other one. I could add it.
You're excusing people being burned alive and kids being murdered. You're saying Israel does that on the daily. Okay. Now I'm not denying that. I'm not denying that. So are you denying that? So are you not denying that?
I'm not understanding what we're showing here.
So are you?
Now look, I
don't. What did we just see?
They're the bad guys.
Israeli Rudy was saying that Palestinians are taught at 2 years old to kill Americans.
That's pretty spicy.
Yeah. Do we have that one?
Like, come on. Kids being murdered. You're saying Israel does that on the daily. Okay. Now I'm not denying that.
I mean, I guess at this point they would have. Okay. I'm not understanding what's happening here.
Denying that. So are you denying that? So are you not denying that? So are you?
Rewind. I don't think. What else am I going to rewind? Ethan's already acknowledged that the impact that they have on the Gazan people is worse.
So are you?
Now look, I don't want to critique Ethan's personal relationship with his wife, Hila Klein, or the Raider of Ramallah, as she is sometimes known.
Okay, I'm sure that's something anti-Semitic.
Because it's ultimately unimportant for this video. But what is important is that it is one of the clear reasons that he deploys Orientalism, to make himself feel better about the clear incongruency between his consistent lack of condemnation of his wife and her behaviour, and his constant condemnation of people like Rashid al-Haddad, who have never even served in a military, yet he sees them as terrorists. Now, as I'm sure that many of you know, Hila served in the IOF, the Israeli military. It's where she came by the nickname the Raider of Ramallah, and
what? I have literally never heard of this nickname before. Is he trying to start a new nickname?
She maintains that, she was just doing a desk job for a senior IOF terrorist, a senior figure within Israel's occupation. She was
He's trying to make it stick.
just doing a desk job for him. But then she got bored and one day wanted to go onto a raid in Ramallah, a space which Ethan refers to as a terrorist city. Just watch this clip.
I just want to be very clear. You're sitting here and you're telling us that the 19-year-old kid that said that he was a Houthi pirate, your argument is, hey, he's a young kid and he's young and dumb. Agree. Probably. Well, your argument is that he's been oppressed his whole life by Israeli people and he's young and dumb. Isn't she 19 here? Here's my fucking thing. We have the 19-year-old Houthi kid that says that he's a terrorist. We're supposed to give him the benefit of the doubt because he's a 19-year-old fucking idiot, which I agree with. Hila's a 19-year-old idiot too. Wouldn't she be indoctrinated by the same shit to be overly supportive of Israel at the time that she's 19? I just feel like, I know I'm like fucking slurring my words. I just feel like if she's 19 years old and she grew up in Israel, she would be more indoctrinated by the rhetoric. And as she's gotten older and she's lived in the United States, it has dialed down and she has shifted her position. Like, she's a kid at this time. Isn't that like, I feel like that's something to keep in mind. What?
What did you do? What was your role in the military?
At first, I was given a role that was like in an office somewhat close to my house in Tel Aviv. And it was kind of like going to a day job in an office. It happened right after there was some kind of a second war in, where was it, in Gaza?
Okay.
There was some sort of a small war when I was there. And so my job was to, like, when they sent officers or like people to go serve, I had to like logistically help with like their hotel or a room, things like that. But it was all on the computer. It just felt like some computer thing.
Right, okay. So secretary.
Yeah.
Interesting.
And it was super boring and I really hated it. Because it was just like, I had to take a bath super early, go there, spend the whole day, go back home. I hated it. So I tried to change my role. And it was something like you can apply for it and it's a form that you fill out and then they're going to give you something else completely random.
Different
you
position,
have no idea.
different post, different location.
So I decided to do that, and if I don't like the second one, then I'll just find a way to get out of the army.
Was that bad?
Yeah, I hated everything about it, didn't want to do it. Because if you're doing something that it felt like I wasn't doing anything, I was just wasting my life.
Yeah.
It could get really frustrating, I don't know.
Right.
And you got to do it for 2 years.
Right.
So I filled out that form and I tried it, and then I somehow ended up in a better place that I liked a lot more. Before it was a daily thing where you go back home every day, and the new one was in a way that was a base that was far from my house. So you go there for the whole week and then you come back for the weekend.
So you preferred that? Were you on for a week?
I did.
Why?
It was kind of like just more of an adventure, more of a different experience that I preferred than to just go to a boring job, sit on the computer and go back home at the end of every day. I don't know.
Were you doing secretary work there?
So yeah, I was the secretary of the head of the there's like a, I don't know the terms in English from the army.
Right. Who's that?
So there was I was in Groovy, which is like a brigade, I guess, that's in charge of the area of Ramallah, and that brigade has like a main officer. So I was his secretary.
Okay, so you were rep below the big boy. Cool.
So it was nice. It was interesting. It was more demanding in a way, but also kind of more rewarding because
you told me once you went on like a mission with them to like a terrorist city.
Yeah.
That was kind of a crazy story.
Yeah. So my officers and like the soldiers in that brigade, they would go every night on a raid in Ramallah to arrest terrorists. And so I always saw them preparing for it and leaving, and then I would stay in the base. So one time I wanted to go with them just to experience it.
Why, you just were all of a sudden had an urge to go with them?
I just wanted to see what it's like. I wanted to see it.
And there you have it. She did this because she was bored. So why does
Yeah, I mean, it kind of makes sense. She's fucking bored doing a desk job. She files to do something else. They put her over there. It's probably not just going around shooting fucking Palestinians all day. It's probably there. I mean, I don't know anything about that. If I had to guess, they might be occupying an area. That's wrong, but I doubt that they're sitting there shooting Palestinians every day. I'm talking about a 19-year-old kid that's grew up based on like a Israeli perspective. There's probably levels of their history classes being taught as propaganda, like every country does to their own people. And she's completely like warped into that mindset. Okay.
Doesn't Ethan condemn her as an evil terrorist? Why doesn't he think that she should be destroyed along with members of the Houthis? What is the difference between her and a Yemeni person who hasn't even fought against another country?
She's hotter, honestly. She's got nicer tits, dude. You know, that's how I operate in my life. You know what I mean?
Well, let's actually just have a look at more of what these two have to say.
Yeah, she didn't go on a raid because she was bored. She was just bored with what she was doing, so she asked for a transfer, and they transfer her there.
Hey,
to serve like everybody else in the country. I mean, it's a very selfish move to decide, okay, I'm not going to do it, but everybody else will.
Like Israel as a place, the mentality of growing up there, like everybody feels an obligation to protect, to serve, to nurture this place that feels like the only place in the world where they can live and be Jewish and not be like discriminated.
I mean, when you're growing up with constant terror attacks, the army is a necessity.
Yeah.
And I'm sorry if people think that's a controversial statement. That is the reality of Israel.
This probably is a reality of Israel. This is where it gets like really complicated, right? Because this is how like all these things work. You are born into a thing happening. You're not born with historical context and understanding of everything that's going on around you. So she's born into a country, and it's like we're constantly getting attacked by these people. Probably makes it a little difficult to fully empathize with their perspective while you live there. I kind of get it. Okay. not saying that what she did was right, but I live in America. It's easier for me to examine these things from a historical context because I'm not like infected by them. Okay, I don't care about Jewish people. No, I'm kidding. I am a little bit Jewish. So yeah, man. Just saying, that's the same argument that I make when I'm like, yeah, other countries in the Middle East probably hate Israel. Like Palestinians probably hate fucking Jews. It's not right to hate Jews, but it's because they're being oppressed to some degree by fucking by Israel. Because of a very complicated, it's like issue that happened 80 years ago, where both sides were victims, and one side happened to gain more like prominence. Because that's what it boils down to. Like Israeli people were victims of the Holocaust, and then like though they got their own land, it was given to them that displaced people, and then now it's a whole fucking complicated measure.
And so, for one person to decide I'm not going to do it is
you grew up during a time of bus and cafe bombings weekly. Yeah, it makes sense.
It's selfish decision because meanwhile you're not doing it, everybody else is doing it and putting their life on hold. Very important years of your personal development, you're putting it on hold to go do this, and it helps nothing with your career afterwards. You finish it, then you start your actual life.
Yourself. It's just normal.
And I just want to note something before I analyse this clip here. Lying for Ethan and Gila is a very dangerous game because you have published the vast majority of your life on the internet for well over a decade now. I mean, I've been watching you since I was...
What are they lying about? I don't understand.
14, really.
Was it like a year ago? Like, how old is this fucking kid?
And what you said, first of all, was that, Gila didn't actually want to serve in the IOF, that, she was kind of forced to.
I just looked, this kid's only, damn, this kid's he's a demigorgon, I don't know. This kid's a very small creator, and he's going to be locked into, like, anti-Israel shit forever. That's pretty much going to be his entire everything. And when he gets older and probably... gets a little more nuance, he's going to be locked into it.
But I think what's becoming clearer is that both of you are letting the mask slip more and more, because in that original clip, you claimed, it was mandatory and all of these things. But now Ethan is saying that it is a necessity, and Gila is saying that people who don't serve are shameful? That's not really congruent with the idea that you didn't want to serve, is it?
I don't know. When I look it up, it says that national military service is mandatory for all Israeli citizens over the age of 18. So I don't know. I mean, maybe there's a way to draft dodge it, but it's considered shameful. That's my best argument that I would say. Like, it's considered shameful to dodge it. Like, and then you're shamed by your society. I don't really know their society, but like when I look this up, it says that it's mandatory. So I don't know.
Is it now? And Ethan and Gila are claiming here that the IOF is a necessity because of the really serious threats that Israel faces, terror every single day. But
at that point, sure.
What are these threats? Where do they come from? Is there any context to them? Or are they just the result of the barbarous anti-Semitism that Jewish people face every single day in the Middle East?
Oh, maybe they're referring to some kind of potential medical thing that can get them out of it. I don't know. But okay.
Well, of course they're not, and it's so ridiculous for Ethan to sit there and claim that he is pro-Palestine, because once again we can pick apart another part of his ideology. So Ethan says in the...
Alright, let's do it, baby. Let's give me something out of context.
Content.
I'm fucking coming for it.
That he thinks Israeli settlers in the West Bank are colonial settlers.
Condemned Netanyahu as a war criminal. They're led by Netanyahu, who should resign in disgrace and go to prison for being a war criminal.
Damn, based Ethan Klein. I'm surprised you left this in your video.
Called the West Bank settlements an abomination. Settlers in the West Bank are religious zealots, they're monsters, they're genocidal. I've even said the West Bank settlers are valid military targets. When you talk about like colonial settlers and stuff like that.
Why is the audio all over the place for his video?
That's what's actually happening in the West Bank right now. And these people are more or less valid military targets, in my opinion.
I mean, I'm not really sure that he knows what this means. But anyway, he thinks they're valid military targets. But he doesn't have a problem with his wife who served in that area, who raided terrorist cities. He has no problem with that. He said just a few days ago that he is proud of what his wife did.
And like...
Yeah. I'm very confused about what the point that's being made here is, to be honest with you.
And I mean, to me, it's like, that's shameful and it's embarrassing. Hila served her country. She did her civic duty. And I think that's a good thing. That, regardless, like just in general.
But at the same...
I'm not understanding. So it sounds like he said that certain area was okay as a valid military target, but then he's saying that in general he thinks it's a positive, fine, patriotic thing to serve your country. What hypocrisy are we exposing here? I'm so confused.
Same time, he's against the occupation. He's against the extremities of Israeli society.
I don't think that. So I don't think Ethan's take is that that the existence of Israel or its military is bad. Just some of the things that they do. is bad. Their existence is okay. Them, fighting off foreign threats is okay. Them fucking terror bombing Gaza disproportionately in a disproportionate response, not okay. Right? The occupation of the West Bank, not okay. Right? There's some nuance to it. That's what he's saying.
What does he think Israeli soldiers do in the West Bank? They're not just having fun or protecting Israel. They are maintaining Israel's colonial regime in the West Bank.
True.
They are there so as to ensure that the Israeli occupation does not face any form of serious resistance.
Yeah, sure, those ones are there. Sure, for that.
She was arresting people, most likely.
Also, but I think that, just to be clear, his take was it's a general positive patriotic thing. Especially at the time, being decades ago, when she wouldn't have had an understanding of the complexity of the matter.
For opposing it. Who knows whether that was via armed resistance or peaceful means? I mean, Israel doesn't make a distinction. It doesn't even offer people trial before it begins its horrifying torture of them. I mean...
Really? Are we talking about like a trial in defense of... in response to like a terrorist attack? I'm not really understanding what his point is there. Is he referring to a specific case?
Ethan Klein is a guy who claims that he thinks that there is a genocide going on in Gaza, yet simultaneously thinks that it is shameful not to serve in the Israeli military.
That's not what he's saying. He's saying that you would be shamed for not... That, in my opinion, that's the most accurate context there. That if you didn't serve, especially when they were, when she was 19, it'd be considered shameful and like society would shun you to some extent.
It is some kind of necessity. What does this guy think that actually talking about Palestine...
It's also mandatory service.
...and Israel on the internet is securing him? Every single time he opens his mouth, he puts his foot in it because he has no understanding. He has no coherent position. He just condemns the excesses of Israel without ever confronting what he actually supports. And I mean, he claims that Israel is under threat.
Didn't you just show us that he's...
He does it in the content nuke as well. He claims, Israel's under these threats. It has been since it was established.
Well, that is true.
But where do these threats come from? I mean, Hezbollah, for example. What is the actual context of it? Well, Israel invaded Lebanon in 1982.
True. So just a quick look into it. The reason that they apparently went and invaded Lebanon was because a Lebanese terrorist organization tried to assassinate... an Israeli ambassador to the UK. His name was Shmolo. That's a fucking terrible name. Okay. I mean, apparently there was a ton of different groups in Lebanon that they were in a power struggle to take over the country. This is probably a lot more complicated than like a 2-minute Google search here, but it seems like that's why they went in. Well, that is why they went in there in 1982. There was a lot of instability in Lebanon. Maybe Israel's part of the instability. Maybe they're supporting like a certain government regime. I don't really know.
Hezbollah largely came from that.
But I think the biggest terrorist threat here is the name Shmolo, right?
Gained legitimacy through fighting against Israel, through driving them out in 2000, driving them out in 2006. It became popular. Lebanese people liked it because it stood up to Israel. And by the way, the crimes that Israel has committed against the Lebanese people are truly unbelievable. Since the ceasefire came into effect, who is the one terrorizing the people of Lebanon? Who is the one consistently carrying out bombardments during a ceasefire? It is absolutely obscene that this man sits here and tries to overplay the threats that Israel faces.
Gotcha. All right. So if we go way back, Lebanon did take part in the 1948 Arab-Israeli war against Israel, but Lebanon was the first Arab League nation to signal a desire for an amnesty. Is that what you say? A treaty with Israel in 1949. Lebanon did not participate in the Six-Day War, nor the Yom Kippur War in 1973 in any significant way, and until the early 1970s, Lebanon's border with Israel was the calmest frontier between Israel and any of the other adjacent Arab league states. Okay. The most turbulent period in binational relations was during the 1970s and 80s. Upon the Lebanese Civil War, during the first stages of the war, Israel allied with major Christian Lebanese militias, which led the Lebanese government during the 1980s. The country effectively reached normalization of relations with the U.S. brokered May 17th agreement in 1983, but it had been annulled by Lebanon after power takeover by, Druzi? I don't know, and Shiite militias in 1984. Israel also supported the secessionist Free Lebanon State during the 1970s. Okay. So it seems like they backed a certain group when there was a civil war, and that group didn't win, and so the group that took over did not like Israel, and there was an issue there. Again, these are obviously more complicated, and this guy wants to let on. Breaking a ceasefire is disgusting. I'm not defending that. But I feel like looking at the historical context here makes sense, right? They initially opposed Israel's existence in 1948, but they were pretty chill until the 70s, when they had political turmoil in their own country of Lebanon. There was a civil war, and Israel backed one side of the civil war that happened to lose, and then now there's tensions there. Okay, how's it? Druze are a religious group? Okay. So, again, like, this guy seems to want to, like, boil it down. And then they invaded when I guess whatever organization was vying for power in Lebanon tried to assassinate their representative, going to the UK. It's a whole fucking complicated mess here.
Absolutely obscene that this man sits here and tries to overplay the threats that Israel faces that come from its settler colonial nature. And the same goes for the terror attacks. Look, innocent civilians being killed is not a good thing, but Ethan claims that he opposes colonial settlers.
Everything, you know what they say about everything after a but, no?
Claims that he thinks there is a genocide. He says all of these things, but he lets his wife go on about how there are terror attacks every day. Does he not see that since the inception of the Zionist project in the early 20th century, Palestinians realized that they had to resist against what the Zionists were doing?
I'm so sorry. Hold on a second.
The 20th century, Palestinians realized that since the inception of the Zionist project in the early 20th century, Palestinians realized that they had to resist against what the Zionists were doing. They knew that the Zionists wanted to build a state that did not involve the Palestinians, where the Zionist project would be dominant over them.
He's referencing somebody who is stated in the article he's showing on the screen as a white supremacist. This is from 1922, before World War II. This is the propaganda that started Hitler genociding 6 million Jews that he just referenced. This is over 2 decades before Israel occupied that land, with its obviously complicated history. This guy unironically just showed us pre-World War II anti-Jew propaganda justifying the Holocaust. Wow. That's pretty crazy, man. Okay. Okie dokie. Okay. Okay, that's pretty crazy stuff we just looked at, buddies. Jews were migrating a lot during the period of 1917 to 1939. Okay, what is that point? What does the fact that Jewish people were migrating have to do with what's happening right now? Jews have been treated like shit for like ever. You know, we used to turn away Jewish like migrants, or not migrants, like some kind of like asylum seeker or refugees during World War II. Like, everybody hated the Jews. Everybody hates any of the Jews historically. They were the go-to scapegoat, the people that you would turn to hate. And I guess we're doing that again. So
build a state that did not involve the Palestinians, where the Zionist project would be dominant over them. And so Palestinians have...
Holy fuck, this is just crazy. Also, all the Zionist project is I mean, what it seems to be, it refers to a historical and ongoing effort to establish and maintain a Jewish state. I think that is justifiable, frankly, considering how much the world hates Jewish people. The left hates Jews, the right hates Jews. There's a reason why Jewish people migrated from the surrounding Arabic countries to go to Israel. Everybody hates the Jews. We didn't accept Jewish, what is it called? Refugees during World War II. Everybody didn't like them. I could kind of understand. It'd be the same thing if black people were like, we want our own fucking state in the United States. I could understand it. I wouldn't go along with it because this is the United States, but I would get it. I'd be like, oh, you guys are being oppressed, you want your own state. So I kind of get why an oppressed group would be like, hey, we wanted to just be us right now because you guys keep killing us. You know? Yeah, okay. Cool stuff, man.
Resisted ever since that date, and Ethan even seems to say that he thinks settlers in the West Bank are valid targets, but he doesn't carry that same energy for people who settle outside the Gaza.
I'll be real with you, he probably never thought that necessarily. He probably was afraid of getting bullied online because people like this fucking weirdo are way too charged up over a topic they do not care about. They pretend to care about it because it gets them views. They do not really care about it.
Strip, who live on the lands of the people who were expelled to Gaza in 1948 during the Nakba. He doesn't care about that, you know, that doesn't matter. He's more interested who settle outside the Gaza Strip, who live on the lands of the people who were expelled to Gaza in 1948 during the Nakba. He doesn't care about that, you know, that doesn't matter.
I'm sure he does care about that.
He's more interested in trying to talk about the Mizrahi Jewish people brought over to Israel after the expulsion of the Palestinians, rather than talking about the suffering of the Palestinians and actually contextualizing why they might resist. He would rather resort to, as he did with the Houthis and any other group, claiming that they are some kind of violent anti-Semitic savages. For Ethan, militant groups in the Middle East are irrational savages who carry out violence against Israel and America because of their horrifying ideologies. But people...
Well, no. What?
People violent, and he would rather resort to, as he did with the Houthis and any other group, claiming that they are some kind of violent anti-Semitic savages. For Ethan, militant groups...
Did he just say that the West Bank is a valid military target? What?
In the Middle East are irrational savages who carry out violence against Israel and America because of their horrifying ideologies.
Yeah, so my understanding of the Nakba is that is when Israel got the land. They were told that it was their land from the United Nations, and they were going there to put into place the state of Israel, and the Israeli perspective to be like, hey, that was justifiable. Unfortunately, back then, it was. Like, it's terrible to say, but like we were doing land battling, right? In general, now the boundaries are drawn, and so what can you do at this point? I mean, I think reparations, right? One of the problems, though, is that like Hamas leaders steal aid money from their people, right? So there's a very complicated thing here, but like, yeah, ideally two-state solution, reparations, and different aid going to Palestine to help it build up, maybe even get a nice positive Western presence there, good trade, good laws, and rights for their people. That'd be great. But that would be what the Nakba is. It's like, hey, this is our land because it was given to us, and we were just genocided, so that's why they gave it to us. We need a Jewish state, and this is our holy land state. Let's give them Minnesota, in my opinion. Yeah. And now we're kind of where we are, unfortunately.
But people like Hila, who serve in the Israeli military, an entity who, as I have said over and over again, engages in all of the crimes which Ethan allegedly so hates, he thinks that that is a necessity. He thinks that she is some kind of rational person. But what is rational about defending the colonization of an indigenous people's land? He says that he thinks Benjamin Netanyahu is a war criminal, but he thinks it's necessary for Israeli soldiers to serve in it, and he thereby condemns the tiny
Well, it's required by law.
Amount of Israelis with an actual conscience who don't serve and go to prison for a few months. People like Tal Mitnick, who I've actually spoken to.
I wouldn't want to go to prison for a few months.
Who I said over and over again.
Also, imagine going to prison is like a death sentence, right? We understand. So you can't get a fucking job after that. So.
Oh, it's a brave thing what you're doing. And he said, nah, laughing my ass off, it's the bare minimum. Because the truth is that how can you sit there and say, oh, I think there's a genocide going on. I think that Netanyahu's a war criminal. But not say, actually, it's wrong to help and aid and abet that. Hila served in the Israeli military on the back end of the Second Intifada, a period which is often portrayed as explosive Palestinian violence, where poor Israeli civilians were targeted for no reason, but it of course has context. It came after a major provocation by Ariel Sharon, and it also led to the murder of 4 times as many Palestinians. They also received horrifying...
I think it's actually more than 4 times as many Palestinians.
Collective punishment. The Jenin refugee camp was leveled. I mean, look at this photo. There were mass curfews, schools closed, people arrested, beaten, homes taken over by Israeli soldiers, and massive torture of Palestinians. How dare you sit there and make a distinction between your wife, who had no problem with serving in an army that did those things, and by the way, also took huge amounts of human shields. Here are articles about it. How dare you sit there and somehow try and make that acceptable? Something that you say you are proud of. You may say that your wife is just a secretary, but Israel's occupation of the West Bank, its torturous regime, its brutalization and murder of innocent Palestinians would not be possible without those desk secretaries who make the cogs go round.
Okay. That's crazy. All right, if you say so, man. I guess that makes me complicit for like everything Donald Trump does. I don't know. I just feel like, okay, fucking idiot 19-year-old that doesn't really know what's going on because they were fed a line about, well, they were fed a historical context that was purely Israeli. I don't know. I feel like it makes it. I feel like for people like this, it makes it so easy for them to just boil it down to who is right and who is wrong, and just operate based off of that absolutely, and then just move forward. That just seems to be the whole case. It's like, this is right, this is wrong. Since I made that distinction, Ethan and Hila deserve to they just don't deserve to be here anymore. All right.
This man's politics are right-wing and disgusting, and he makes himself feel better about them by just deploying Orientalism, by portraying Israel and America as enlightened...
You know what's so funny about this guy? I'm assuming he's English, but this perspective, I'm gonna be fucking real with you. It's these people like this that are why people don't really care if they're seen as right-wing anymore. Like, they don't care. You know, like, fucking the right wing is winning right now. Unfortunately, but it's the reality. I mean, this is the representative, not the representative, but this is the person that's part of the Hassan group who Hassan wouldn't actively support Kamala Harris because she wouldn't be perfect when it came to Palestine. And so since he didn't actively support her, he didn't get any people to come out in droves to vote for her. Now, is it why she lost? I don't know, but I'm sure it's a factor. And it's like, you guys are virtue signaling, but like, you guys are also being fucking lazy. You're sitting here like spouting righteousness. Trump is so terrible, it's so bad. But since Kamala isn't perfect on Gaza, I can't tell you who to vote for. It doesn't really matter. There's no winning here. Okay, so you guys would rather go and fucking jerk off and come all over yourselves and look at porn than actually move us in the right direction. And then what they'll say is like, no, we don't believe in slight progress. We only believe in an absolute restructuring instantaneously. They only believe in a revolution. This is why the right wing is winning, because you're fucking lazy. Because you guys won't get out and you guys won't fucking vote. That's it. You sit here and you have absolute meltdowns about shit you don't really fucking care about. And you don't push us in the right direction. That's what's happening. That's what it all is. That's why the fucking left sucks dick right now. Because they won't stop fucking whinging and they won't do something about it. Go act, go be active, go organize, go vote, go do something. Jesus Christ, old people are going and they're voting. That's what they're doing. They're going and they're voting and they're stupid, but they're voting and they're actually effective because they're voting and they're doing things and they're advocating and they're complaining at town halls and they're Karens. That's what they are, but it works. Complaining works. Complaining works. Go complain about stuff. You're going to get what you want. That's what complaining is. Go complain. Go be an annoying Karen fuck. Stop having social anxieties. God, how am I supposed to go and how am I supposed to go and do anything? How can I go advocate for people if I have to go outside and talk to people? You guys can't even order your own Starbucks without using a fucking phone. You guys are just socially inconsistent. That's what it is. You're afraid of human interaction, so you don't go outside and interact with humans, but you got to go do it. You got to go vote. You got to go out. You got to go fucking, not riot. With the other one, protest. Go do it. You don't do it. You can't even fucking protest vote. You can't even vote for Kamala. All right? You guys can't even do it. You guys don't even have the fucking balls to do it. You guys are, that's what it is. You guys are lazier than a 35-year-old balding fat person whose job it is to do social media content for a living. It's fucking insane.
Countries who don't engage in misogyny, slavery, bigotry against other people, who aren't irrational, who aren't hateful. But of course, he is unwilling to confront the fact that these are all charges which should be leveled against Israel and America, who have perpetrated them on far grander scales than any group he hates.
Crazy.
Now let's move on to some clips of Ethan spreading some of the most despicable Zionist talking points that have been utilized to perpetrate Israel's horrifying crimes in the Gaza Strip.
When civilians fucking get murdered in Gaza, that's a dub for Hamas because it raises it creates more pressure on Israel from
Israel's horrifying crimes in the Gaza Strip.
When civilians fucking get murdered in Gaza, that's a dub for Hamas because it raises it creates more pressure on Israel from outside forces. He's got more people talking, more people outraged.
This is true. This is why Hamas likes it when their people die and they hide within civilians. They like that. They like to be able to use that, right? But Israel and Hamas, neither of them care about Palestinian people.
So it's both. It's both. It is both. It is both. Israel is blowing up buildings and killing a ton of innocent people. But people who pretend that Hamas is anything but a fucking barbaric terrorist group that intentionally kills its own people for political gain is lying to themselves, dude. Holy.
What's wrong with this take? He's 100% right. This has been confirmed. There's Palestinian protests against Hamas for this exact thing. Israel doesn't give a fuck about Palestinians. Hamas doesn't give a fuck about Palestinians. Hamas likes it when Palestinians die because they get to say like, hey, look, they don't care about our people. That's why they hide in civilian infrastructure. This is the truth. This is why Palestinians are like the true victims. This is why Palestinians are like the true victims. They have nobody truthfully advocating for them. Why is this a hot take?
Shit. They literally put fucking command centers under hospitals. That's not even debated. They were keeping some of the hostages in hospitals too. It seems like a lot of them ran through hospitals. That's it. I mean, just logical, right?
Now, for someone who is self-proclaimed to be against the genocide in the Gaza
So what is it that you have an issue with here?
Strip and also pro-Palestinian, to hear a talking point like this spread is truly disgusting.
It is true, though. It is a true, he said, objective truth. What contestment do you have to this? What?
You cannot reconcile these two things, because all of the evidence points to the fact that Israel has lied. It has been unable to support outrageous claims that it made, such as the claim that there was a terror base and command center.
It's been able to generally prove that Hamas hides within civilian infrastructure. Yes, it has. What are you talking about?
Under the Al-Shifa hospital that was used to raid it to make patients.
All right, so here's the thing about this article that I find so interesting, right? Israel went on about how there absolutely was a command center under this hospital because there has been factual proof that there were hiding within civilian infrastructure, apartment buildings, hospitals, etc. They went in there, they attacked, and they didn't find enough evidence. And then Western media reported that they did not find enough evidence. And so while this is obviously very incorrect from the IDF and something that they should be held accountable for, they're held accountable for it because we're holding them accountable to it. And so if everything was propaganda, then they would have just fabricated evidence. So nothing that you say makes sense when we're looking at Israel being held to a higher standard than Hamas. Them saying that there was evidence of military infrastructure, of Hamas infrastructure underneath a hospital. They went in there. They were wrong. They got fucking called out for it because they were wrong, and they did it because there were other instances of this happening. But they got held accountable for it. They got told the only reason this exists is because they weren't able to propagandize about how it wasn't real. And they did find some weapons under there. It just wasn't enough to say that this was an entire command center. It's just none of it makes sense that you're using Western articles that gets their information from Israel to say that Israel lies all the time. But Israel is the one who reported this information. So how are you taking Israel's word for it when it agrees with you, but when it doesn't agree with you, you're not taking their word for it? It doesn't make any sense. Okay.
Patients there suffer. And I mean, babies literally died in their incubators because they had to be left. They rotted and decomposed because of talking points like this. Israel has struck and targeted hospitals over and over again because of talking points like this.
But the talking points are real. We understand that. Hamas does hide in civilian infrastructure like hospitals. This one just happened to not be a command center, but they still found weaponry in here, right?
It has arrested Palestinian doctors, tortured them to death, perhaps even sexually, like Adnan al-Burj.
Perhaps even sexually?
But for pro-Palestinian...
Why did you say sexually? Is there proof of that in this?
Doctors, torture...
It doesn't say anything about sexual torture here. Oh, it does. Okay. And sexually... All right. Emerged in the case of a Palestinian surgeon who was tortured to death and sexually abused by... Okay. It does.
Tortured them to death, perhaps even sexually, like Adnan al-Burj. But for pro-Palestinian anti-genocide Ethan Klein, there's no debate about it. But that's just...
But there is no debate that they generally do that tactic.
Not true. Just a few months ago, one of the International Criminal Court's lead prosecutors, Andrew Cayley, noted claims of Hamas in hospitals had been grossly exaggerated.
Well, it doesn't say grossly exaggerated. Just to be clear, you added that in there to sensationalize the story. 2, we know that because we just looked at this Rolling Stones article about how they exaggerated a command center, and then they got called out for it because they provided not enough, because they couldn't provide enough evidence because they're held to a higher standard. Yeah, we know this, but it's still happening. Just to be clear, in the actual article, it uses the term grossly exaggerated, so we'll just correct that, but it didn't say it in the title or what he showed. But I want to read through this and actually see what it said. What I will say is that in this entire thing, they secured arrest warrants for Gallant, Netanyahu, both Israeli obviously, and a Hamas military leader, or Hamas's military leader. So something to keep in mind, that the courts that are saying that what Gallant and specifically Netanyahu is doing is, war crimes and really bad. They hold, they're also saying that this military leader is very bad too on Hamas's side. All right, so there's no proof that it is grossly exaggerated. The international courts right now are, from what I'm seeing in this article, still investigating the claims that Hamas is using these hospitals. As a matter of fact, because they have specific protections, and that's what the IDF is claiming when it comes to hospitals. Just to be clear, some of the proof in the direction is that there were tunnels that Hamas was using that were underground hospitals. Oh, wait a minute. Wait, there's updated information on this where he says that there's no proof that this hospital was being used by Hamas. There's a later report that confirms that there is underground infrastructure suggesting that they did use this hospital as cover. Okay, Jesus Christ, there's so much going on here. So I think this hospital actually was being used by Hamas to hide. Oh my God, dude. This guy, I don't know if he did this on purpose or if he just decided to leave out the updated information, but like there is evidence that Hamas was using this hospital. I don't know if it was on purpose or not. Okay.
And I mean, this is a man who was appointed.
And this was part of the, I'm assuming this was the part of the investigation that investigated that.
By the UK's most racist Home Secretary in its recent history, Suella Braverman, a woman who is unequivocally pro-Israel, and he is saying this. He is saying that it is likely Israel has grossly exaggerated its claims. Then you have Forensic Architecture, who highlighted that Israel lied at the International Court of Justice about a militant fighting inside hospital boundaries.
I mean, according to this, this isn't the same hospital. I don't know if this specific hospital was used. There's so many different hospitals here.
Lied at the International Court of Justice about a militant fighting inside hospital boundaries. Israel lied at the International Court of Justice.
Assessment. We found that the annotation of the image presented by the Israel legal team during the ICJ hearing was incorrect. The incorrect annotation appears throughout the 13th November press release video where evidence figure 2 comes from. The incorrect annotation is used in an incorrect interpretation. We found no evidence of the presence of a Palestinian armed operation inside the hospital. We found that the claim made the 13th press release that a projectile was fired from inside the hospital to be false. Okay. All right, so apparently there were rockets fired from the vicinity of the hospital, but not from the hospital. That's what's being said. And so either they lied or they got that information incorrect.
Then you have Forensic Architecture, who highlighted...
And maybe that was just a guy. Maybe wasn't a terrorist with an RPG, although it kind of looks like one, but I don't know.
...that Israel lied at the International Court of Justice about a militant fighting inside...
Hospital was targeted by Israeli forces. Okay.
...hospital boundaries. They debunked it clearly. People do not want to talk about this. And then let's move on to what Craig Mohiba said. As he noted,
these would come off more hard-hitting if you didn't lie about the other ones. The problem here is he's not saying, hey, IDF lies sometimes. The issue here is that he's saying they always lie when we are constantly getting information to the contrary. Like, they have to prove their claims because they're held to a higher standard, and we're getting proof of these claims in different instances.
The mere presence of armed forces of members of the enemy, to what Craig Mohiba said. Clearly, the mere presence of armed forces of members of the enemy in populated civilian areas does not constitute the use of human shields. Indeed, Israel should carefully consider the implications of its repeated claims that it does, given that it maintains its military...
But the mere presence of armed forces or members of the enemy in populated civilian areas does not constitute the use of human shields. Okay. I mean, it might, though. Indeed, they may not constitute it from like whatever legal boundary, but they do that. Just to be clear, it is a fact that they do that.
Headquarters in a busy section of Tel Aviv. Ethan has spread one of the most deadly Zionist lies. It is...
But he didn't. He was factually correct. You looked at like limited instances where the IDF couldn't prove their claim and ignored the times where they could prove their claim that Hamas was hiding within civilian infrastructure. It's a fact. Now, is the IDF sometimes using that to justify going after any hospital? They might be. That might be true. But it's a fact that they hide within civilian infrastructure. They found tunnels underneath hospitals.
Is truly despicable. For this man to try and sit there and claim that he is pro-Palestine is utterly obscene.
Okay.
And it's provable that the Israeli military...
It's fucking crazy.
...just make up numbers when it comes to claims about terrorists or militants.
It's interesting that like Israel and the IDF are held to a massively high standard of evidence. Is Hamas held to the same thing? I don't know.
Had this Haaretz article which stated that of 200 people who crossed an arbitrary line invented by Israel, which they executed, less than 10% of them had any link to Hamas. Or
what?
Israel, which they executed.
I'm sorry, what does this mean? All right, so apparently this is like an established no-go zone, they call it, for Israel, because they claim that it is for military purposes inside the Gaza Strip, and anybody who comes within it is shot. Yeah, I mean, I guess that's not good, but it sounds like they have a pretty publicized indiscriminate killing policy. I mean, it's still terrible to shoot children or anything. I guess I would question why people are crossing the line. I truly wonder that. Apparently it's used for humanitarian aid purposes. It's possible that there's some smuggling happening, although it seems to be mostly within tunnel networks underneath this corridor. Interesting. I wonder why those people cross the line. I'm genuinely curious.
That of 200 people who crossed an arbitrary line invented by Israel, which they executed,
I mean, wasn't all lines invented by us, you know?
Less
people
than
in general?
10% of them had any link to Hamas. Or you have this article from the BBC about Israel's bombardment of Lebanon, where Israel made the claim, oh, we were bombing a Hezbollah command center, we were only targeting militants, we were eliminating Hezbollah.
Wouldn't this support the argument that they hide within civilian infrastructure? I'm reading the article. I'm just going to read the article on stream. So this is the article he's got here. So Julia, I think her name is Ramadan, was terrified. The war between Israel and Hezbollah was escalating, and she'd had a nightmare that her family home was being bombed when she sent her brother a panicked voice note. Excuse me. I'm old. From her apartment in Beirut, he encouraged her to join him in An El Delb. I hope I said that right. A sleepy village in southern Lebanon. It's safe here, he reassured her. Come stay with us until things calm down. Early that month, Israel intensified air campaigns against Hezbollah in Lebanon in response to escalating rocket attacks by Iran-backed arms group, and I believe Iran's backed by Russia, by the way, which had killed civilians. So just to be clear, Hezbollah is killing civilians as well, and displaced tens of thousands more from homes in northern Israel. I don't know how to say this. Ashraf was confident their family's apartment block would be a haven, so Julia joined him. But the next day, on this 29th of September, it was subject to this conflict's deadliest single Israeli attack. Struck by Israeli missiles, this entire six-story building collapsed, killing 73 people. The Israeli Defense Forces says that the building was targeted because it was a Hezbollah terrorist command center, and it eliminated a Hezbollah commander. It added that the overwhelming majority of those killed in the strike were confirmed to be terrorist operatives. But a BBC Eye investigation verified the identity of 68 of the 73 people killed in the attack and uncovered evidence suggesting that just 6 were linked to Hezbollah's military wing. None of those were identified appeared to hold a senior rank. Damn, this was pretty fucked up. The BBC's World Service also found that the other 62 civilians, 23 of them were children. Among the dead were babies only a few months old. This is disgusting. I mean, there's really no justification for this. It just seems like they attacked him. These are the ones that were evidence of Hezbollah affiliation. Damn, that's fucking horrific. They'd been close, sharing everything with each other. She was like, damn, that's fucked up. Yeah, I mean, there's really no justification for this. It seems like they decided that they were, I'm sure that they had intel that said that there were Hezbollah-linked individuals in this apartment complex, and they decided to knock it down, and I would imagine create the lie that it was full of Hezbollah operatives, and it just turns out that 6 of them had a link, but they weren't even, heavily linked to, they weren't even like bigwigs, we'll say, in Hezbollah's army. Damn, that's fucked up.
Hezbollah commanders. But of the 73 people killed, only 68 of which could be verified, likely because they were torn to shreds and their families will never even get to bury them. Only 6 of them had links to Hezbollah's military wing. None of them held a senior rank. The other 62 of them were civilians, 23 children. And they were killed. And Israel lied. And people like Ethan believe it and they show it to their audience.
But he didn't show this to his audience. That's what I'm not understanding. He didn't show this instance to his audience. Ethan made the general claim, which is factually correct, that Hamas hides within civilian infrastructure. The tunnels are proven. They do this thing. And now you're showing an article of like a terrible, disgusting thing that happened, and you're saying Ethan said, like, you're trying to insinuate Ethan said that this was valid. And this, like, what are you talking about?
Of millions of people tell them these kind of lies that are currently killing people in the Middle East. These are the claims which undergird Israel's genocide. This is the way that the consent is manufactured, which makes Israel's slaughter possible. This is why people are so anti-Israel, America, and the media in our countries. And as I have said over and over again, to the point where it is...
You're saying our media is anti-Israel? That's crazy, because Noah Samsen said the media was pro-Israel. I'm so confused. What happened?
Getting tired. For someone who claims to be pro-Palestine and anti-genocide to say these things is despicable, but it still shows...
I like that this 58-minute video has like maybe 30 seconds worth of Ethan. It is overwhelmingly not even Ethan. It is like obscure situations that this guy's assuming Ethan would agree with that he would not agree with. It's fucking insane.
You his Orientalism, this distinction in the way that the other fights. They are savages who lie, who want their own civilians killed.
Well, I mean, I think this is one of those things where you're engaging in Orientalism, right? Like, at the end of the day, compared to West to West, Israel is incredibly regressive. Compared to other Middle Eastern countries, they're probably one of the least regressive. I'm just saying, it's terrible, right? It's all disgusting, but you have this idea, I don't know. I'm just saying, I think it's something to keep in mind. They're doing what's generally accepted by other Middle Eastern countries to engage in war crimes. It's pretty fucked up. I don't know, man.
Not like Israel. No. Israel's a moral nation. His wife was in their army, you know. It's something that he's proud of.
It is a more moral nation.
And I'd like to end with a very short segment about the recent anti-Hamas protests in Gaza.
All right, we could all agree. Palestinians are like, hey, Gaza's letting us die. Excuse me. They're like, hey, Hamas is letting us die.
Ethan, like many other liberals who purport to be pro-Palestine but in reality are Zionists, has not been able to get over. This man has been so excited about them. He's found a new way to condemn Hassan, to say, oh, he's more pro-Hamas than me. Oh, I think that these are the only way to end Israel's genocide, and they're going to be brilliant. But what I would like to say is, look, no one who knows anything about Palestine should be surprised that there is anti-Hamas sentiment in Gaza.
Yeah, because they let their people get killed. They want their people to die.
Life is very difficult in the Gaza Strip. During times like this, people turn against their government. And so I wouldn't actually have a problem with Ethan covering them if he hadn't used them as yet another way to excuse Israel's genocide. Because Ethan has posted a plethora of
Didn't Hassan downplay it and try to make it seem like it wasn't that big of a deal?
About this, but I just want you to watch this very short clip where Ethan effectively says that these are the only means to end Israel's genocide.
The reason you don't see this, and I mean, Israel's forced them into a point of desperation where like they're willing to risk their lives, but like protesting against Hamas publicly is a grim, it's a grim outlook. That is not something you want to do. Hamas, just read their charter, listen to what they say. They're Islamic, they're violent, and you know, protesters, and it's known that protesters, people that there are who dissent against Hamas, get scooped up, get punished, disappear.
Now, if at this point you don't believe that Ethan is Orientalist and creates a distinction between them and us, he literally refers to one of the reasons for Hamas being so dangerous as them being Islamic. I think if I were to say that
oh, we're reaching on this one.
Israel is the way it is because it is Jewish, he would make videos about me.
It is. Religion is not good. It can be good, but it's fundamentally not. Just to be clear, it was needed back in the day as a way to do some kind of rule structure when people were incredibly fucking stupid and couldn't follow basic empathetic rules. Nowadays, it's just used as oppression tactics to enslave other groups of people and oppress other groups of people. I'm sorry. So, he got corrected in the same clip, did he? Wait, do we have the clip?
Hamas.
Wait a minute. All right, let me replay this.
Publicly, you
Ethan
see this.
Effectively says that these are the only means to end Israel's genocide.
The reason you don't see this, and I mean, Israel's forced them into a point of desperation where like they're willing to risk their lives, but like protesting against Hamas publicly is a grim, it's a grim outlook. That is not something you want to do. Hamas, just read their charter, listen to what they say. They're Islamic, they're violent, and you know, protesters, and it's known that protesters, people that there are who dissent against Hamas, get scooped up, get punished, disappear.
Now, if at
All right, let's continue. Let's continue the clip.
It's known that protesters, people that there are who dissent against Hamas, get scooped up, get punished, disappear.
At what point do they correct it? All right, so this is a couple minutes later.
Show of dissent in Gaza. Why aren't people out protesting Hamas?
Wait, real quick. I'm seeing in the chat. I was reading something else, so I must have missed it. But at some point a minute ago, I think you said they don't allow it because they're Islamic. You meant Islamist.
Islamist. There is
just a correction there.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah. Okay, gotcha. Islamist, he meant instead of Islamist, I guess, or Islam. Often used interchangeably with political Islam as a broad set of political ideologies that draw inspiration from Islamic symbols, texts, and traditions to pursuit of socio-political objectives. It's a modern phenomenon emerging in debates about the relationship between Islam and modernity. Okay, so it's generally, these would be the specific ideologies that would oppress women and children through like arranged marriages and, not equal rights. Any religious movement, I'm going to be fucking real with you, that goes outside of faith and being personalized, faith-driven, will be oppressive, basically. Any religious political movement is oppressive to people, factually, right? So it's like, yeah, Islamic fundamentalists. That's how all of it works. It doesn't matter what religion it is. So Ethan correct himself. I guess we didn't get that correction from him, though. I guess he didn't see that.
At this point, you don't believe that Ethan is Orientalist and creates a distinction between them and us. He literally refers to one of the reasons for Hamas being so dangerous as them being Islamic.
Yeah, but we also just watched him correct himself, so... Yeah.
I think if I were to say that Israel is the way it is because it is Jewish...
I don't even think that this is a lie. I think that this guy is getting fed clips and he doesn't look into them further. I mean, frankly, the only reason that we were able to find out that it was a lie because I have so many people in here that are like, hey, Papa Gut, look into this. And I'm able to parse through this information publicly with you guys. So I don't know if he's lying, but, it's possible. It depends on how he got this information. Would be really what it comes down to.
He would make videos about me calling me an anti-Semite. It is completely insane that he would say this, especially when you consider that Israel's violence against non-violent protesters is off the charts. During the First Intifada, a mass uprising that was largely non-violent, Israel deployed some of the most horrifying torture that you could possibly imagine. And you can read about how horrifying this torture was in texts such as on Gaza Beach. Yitzhak Rabin, someone who is considered one of the most peace-loving Israeli prime ministers, issued an order to break the bones of non-violent protesters. And this isn't something that went away. Israel's response to the Great March of Return, a march that initially was not supported by Hamas, although later they didn't come out against it, but was largely non-violent.
It's hard. It's exhausting. It's at the end of the video, and I'm like almost so tired of fact-checking everything that he says. There's just so much information. This video is an hour long. We've been on stream for 3 hours. We started this after like 10 minutes of the stream. And like the video's not even going to be 3 hours long probably. It's so much fact-checking in between pausing. I'm fucking burnt out. I don't know the specifics of the first Intifada. I'm sure that there was issues with the way that Israel operated. But this guy's so dishonest. I can't take his word for anything.
Responded by shooting Palestinians. Look at this one, where an Israeli sniper brags about maiming 42 Palestinians in one day. These were horrifying, traumatic injuries that led to people losing their legs and being unable to walk. But Ethan would never dare to say that Israel is an innately violent country, that it is this way because it is Jewish. No.
I'm sorry, what?
But Ethan would never...
Wait, what?
To traumatic injuries that led to people losing their legs and being unable to walk. But Ethan would never dare to say that Israel is an innately violent country, that it is this way because it is Jewish. No, because that's not acceptable. But when it comes to Muslims and people from the Middle East, he sees them as different.
But he doesn't, because we just showed that he apologized. So you're just going off on a whole fucking rampage pretending that you're right.
Sees the way they behave as unacceptable because of where they come from and because of the fact that they challenge the dominance of the West and Israel.
I mean, listen, I feel like this is a force that's going to help end the war, not fucking keeping hostages and underground and like continuing to provoke Israel to attack them.
And the core problem with this is that the Israeli government doesn't care about the hostages. The Israeli government doesn't care about Hamas. Just a few days ago, Benjamin Netanyahu stated that voluntary migration was the plan, that they would control the Gaza Strip.
He's a bad guy. We know that. Second claim that we are unwilling to discuss the final stages is incorrect. We are willing. Hamas will lay down its weapons. The leaders will be allowed to leave. We will see to the general security of the Gaza Strip. We will allow the realization of the Trump plan for voluntary migration. This plan, we are not hiding this. This plan is so horrible, and you stupid fucks did not support Kamala Harris enough, and so now this is why this is happening. You idiots thought Trump would be good for Gaza, and now he's talking about fucking pushing everybody out and building hotels there.
But that's it. They're not hiding it. It's a plan. Anyone can discuss it with them. They are openly planning to ethnically cleanse 2 million people. Why are you obsessing over these protests?
Well, they're not planning to ethnically cleanse them, but they are planning to move them. Would that be considered ethnic cleansing? I don't know. But either way, that's your fucking L, man. I don't know. You guys have to stop fucking around. Start, like, actually voting correctly.
They're not going to save the Palestinians. They are not going to end the suffering. The genocide that you allegedly condemn, the thing that you have spread the propaganda that has enabled. Israel is just ramping up the destruction. It's why they blew up the Turkish cancer hospital.
You haven't been able to show us, like, a single moment of Ethan supporting propaganda. That's a problem.
The only cancer hospital in the Gaza Strip.
Oh, okay, yeah. Mass expulsion or killing of members of an unwanted ethnic group. Yeah, okay. Yeah, you could consider it that then.
No one's going to be getting any cancer treatment there anymore. Where are they going to have to go? Other countries. They won't come back. Gaza is gone to the Zionists, and anyone who's going, well, if Hamas released the hostages, it would save everything, is wrong. The only answer to this situation is massive, massive pressure on Israel. But that's not what Ethan wants. Ethan is planning on taking a trip to Israel to show you its real side. But what real side is there to Israel?
Probably like the human side. It's like if you took a trip to the United States, it wouldn't be all a bunch of stupid fuckface Trump supporters. You know, there's actually some pretty cool shit here. Right? That's what it is. Listen, I'm not trying to be an asshole. It's people like this that let Donald Trump rise to power when you guys just wanted to bitch and moan from your fucking, you know, from your armchair and not actually go out and vote or do anything. I don't know what to tell you. You guys should have went out and voted for Kamala Harris. This kind of is what it is at this point. You know, you guys are sitting idly by while a fucking, you know, a legitimate far-right dictator is taking over the world, and he's making other, you know, far-right individuals feel comfortable coming forward and being like, hey, yeah, we want to fucking get rid of this. So, you know, do more.
When it is a country that is openly planning to perpetrate the greatest crime of the 21st century, you can say, oh, I don't like Netanyahu, I don't like this, I don't like that. It won't change anything. The Israeli military that you are proud of your wife serving in is going to expel millions of Palestinians from Gaza. Then it will turn on the West Bank. Then it will turn on Palestinians inside Israel proper. And you want to go and show your supporters this wonderful side to it. It is one of the most
well, I'm assuming he doesn't want to support that side. I think he wants to support the side of just like people chilling and living.
Obscene and shocking things that has come out of Ethan Klein's mouth over the last year and a half. Because it is not only that as he goes, Israel will be implementing its plan to expel 2 million people, it is also that what he loves and enjoys about Israel is inextricably linked from the dispossession, marginalization, and extermination of the Palestinian people historically.
Yeah, I think that he likes the part where the Jews get to be able to be in a spot where they're not genocided. 6 million of them. I think that's the part that he likes about it. I don't think he likes the other part about it.
But the consistent displacement of Palestinians. But it is also linked to the fact that only a few hundred miles away, if even that, in the West Bank, Palestinians will be being expelled. Communities will be being wiped away. There will be violent pogroms against Palestinians. And Ethan is just going to ignore it. He will not care because he wants to show you the real side. But the two are inextricably linked. So Ethan Klein is a confused Zionist who wishes to disavow the most extreme and unacceptable...
Are you saying that like everybody in America or your country is complicit for all the war acts or the military actions? I don't understand.
...aspect of Israel's
That makes no fucking sense to me.
...genocidal violence against Palestinians, but he cannot abandon his Zionism. He is unwilling to see that Hamas, far from being the sickness, is but a symptom of Israeli settler colonialism, the true sickness that plagues Palestine. From its very inception, Zionism was rejected and resisted by the indigenous Palestinian people. They never wanted to give Palestine away to colonizers who came with the explicit goal of marginalizing the population of Palestine, destroying their alternative mode of existence, and eliminating their cultural and historical contributions to the land of Palestine. And so until Ethan can see that there is no Zionism without the Nakba, without the current expulsion of Palestinians, without the settlement in the West Bank, this man will remain forever a confused Zionist who will continue to aid and abet Israel's extermination of the Palestinian people.
Great. I'm going to watch the debate next. All right, let's do this loaner box debate with this kid. This is, they debate, so let's watch it.
There seems to be no specific
so I'll ask you the question again because you're dodging it. Do you disagree that Hamas was firing rockets that day as well, like they posted on their Telegram?
But they're analysing Hamas firing rockets.
They analysed 17 rockets from Islamic Jihad, you fucking liar. Hamas were firing rockets as well that were not analysed by forensic architecture, no?
Hello?
Whoa, you are insanely loud, hang on. I think that should be fine. I can just drag you down on my end. Do you want to keep talking?
Hold on, I was just muting myself to see whether my chat can hear you.
The hell did you leave this in for?
Can they? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
Yeah, they said unfortunately they can hear you.
Okay.
So you didn't seem too happy with my videos, Mr. Lonerbox?
No.
Why not?
Strawmans, just like
what
bad
was
arguments. You said that I was excusing and like that it was brought onto Ethan Klein's show to support Israeli war crimes, even though on that appearance I literally described Israel's performance in that war as like habitually committing war crimes. So.
Oh, really? Because I've seen a lot of videos of you saying otherwise, you know. There was one where you were doing some forensic analysis, giving an explanation why kids weren't actually being shot in the head, how that wasn't a command coming, you know, up top from the IDF, and how, you know, I think when you responded to my original video, you said when the general's plan was being implemented, you tried to claim that, you know, Netanyahu and the top brass, they just didn't know what was happening, right?
I don't know whether they knew or not that it was happening. My claim was that it hadn't been signed off on by Central Command, which is what I read.
So why do you think they've...
So why do you think they've now pivoted to saying we're going to expel everyone from Gaza? Do you think that was just a plan they came up with out the blue?
No.
So
What did I... Hang on, wait. One thing at a time. What did I just say?
What do you mean?
What did I just say?
That you thought that it didn't come from the top brass, right?
I don't think I've ever seen Loaderbox like talk in any capacity, so a lot of this is going to be like new for me and listening and stuff.
Yeah, does that mean that they disapprove of it or don't know about it?
Well, no, I think it's part of a wider systemic plan, which is what you try and obfuscate.
Okay.
And try and act as if it's like, these things, these IDF soldiers, they're just implementing bad things on the ground. There's baddies like Yehuda.
So first of all, why do you... Okay. So this is also from the same H3 podcast where I said that Netanyahu was a war criminal.
Mm-hmm.
So how can I call him a war criminal, but then also say that he, like, the top brass just doesn't want to implement the general's plan? I can show you what I read in the article.
Because you've done it over and over again. You do it all the time. There are loads of bad empanada videos.
No, wait. Okay, yeah, we can talk about bad empanada videos if you want. Okay, one thing at a time.
No. We're not having a long discussion about that. His videos have long clips where you edited your own stream, didn't you? You took out part of your stream because you weren't willing to avow what you'd actually said.
What did I actually say that I clipped out?
It was the part about talking about what they were shot in the head with. I don't remember exactly.
Well, you might want to remember what he claims to have clipped out of his thing. That doesn't... I don't really remember what it is. What?
You brought it up. You can,
I
can show you the whole. I can give you the whole stream unedited.
Do you want to just sit here and just watch a whole bad empanada video together?
Well, no, I just want you to admit that you don't even know what your claim is. Why are you being so hostile, man? What the fuck?
Loaderbox, I'm not being hostile. I just think
yes, you are.
It does seem like he's been effectively info dumping on this guy. Like he doesn't want to. One of the biggest signs to me of dishonesty is when somebody is looking to kind of just they're looking to kind of just rocket through the conversation, go point by point and get as much information out as possible without actually being held to task on that information. That's usually the sign of like a dishonest person.
Your general behavior.
So what did I say about what did I clip out of that stream?
Oh my goodness. You know what? I didn't keep like a long dossier of all of the things that you've said and done. But
well, you're on here to debate him. If you're making this claim, shouldn't you have general knowledge of what he's talking about?
What is to confront? This is your idea. This debate's your idea. You're not prepared?
I want to confront you more about your general opinions. Of course
you're
I'm
not prepared, though, are you?
I messaged you within 3 hours. You knew I wasn't going to be prepared. Come on, stop with the whole debate launch stick. You know.
Well, why wouldn't you just take time then if you wanted to be prepared?
Let's have a conversation about, what you actually believe about Palestine. And first of all, actually, the videos. You called me a terrorist supporter in a couple of minutes ago, didn't you? Because you said I didn't believe Chen Kugel.
Yeah, your standard on that was kind of ridiculous. Also, just to stop you from backing away from it, the bit that I clipped out of that stream was a bit that was flagged because it was videos of people like doing fucking shooting videos with fake blood, and I took that out because it might get like a TOS flag.
Oh, that makes sense.
Okay,
but obviously,
I'm sure that was.
But Bad Empanada said that I argued that those images in the New York Times article of kids with bullets in their heads was fake. I never said they were fake. I said the opposite. I said the opposite, actually. Didn't I actually push back on someone who said that they were fake?
Shoot them in the head. They were different kinds. They're not all snipers doing it.
Well, that's true. They're not all snipers. No, don't anyway.
What? Wait. Maybe they weren't all snipers doing it. Maybe some of them were like fucking people on the ground. Wouldn't that even make it worse? Because it makes it a more personal attack. I don't understand. He's pushing him because he said it might not have been all snipers, and there might have been some people like actually on the ground doing it. How is that him being? I don't understand.
I said that I never said that they were fake. Bad Empanada lied about it. Do you agree with that or no?
No, I don't, because you tried to obfuscate what was happening.
You said the claim was that I said that they were fake images. I didn't say they were fake.
Oh, goodness me. So this is all you're going to do? Just sit there and go, well, you said exactly this and I said exactly that.
Wasn't that... You're claiming, apparently, you're claiming that he lied, and you can't fucking... This guy's a fucking weasel. What the hell?
Interesting that if you can't concede on one piece of information, then what's the point?
You want to watch a whole video on Bad Empanada then?
I can find you the clip where I say that the images are real, and then I'm like, why would you say I was saying they were fake? It's quite a simple discrepancy, isn't it? Just to be clear, you brought up the claim that I was trying to clip stuff out of the stream to hide stuff.
Yeah,
you brought that up. We're talking about that because you made that claim. I've explained to you that I pulled out a clip because it was TOS.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Not that I tried to hide anything.
Really?
So I mean, if you're just willing to concede that you had no fucking idea what you're referring to when you said that, we can say that.
I'm not going to concede because I think it's very obvious.
Okay, so you can just obviously lie.
This guy's a fucking loser. This is so funny. He got called on the first thing.
I didn't write down.
You can obviously lie and then just refuse to concede. That's fine as well. Yeah.
Hold on. So all you're just going to do.
So you don't know which bit I clipped out, but you brought it up.
Oh, so all you're going to do is force me to be honest? What the fuck?
You brought up the clipping.
Okay. So I didn't write down exactly the words that you clipped out, but it's very obvious what you were saying. You were trying to obfuscate the fact that Israel has been systemically massacring children, shooting them in the head, because there is absolutely no distinction between.
Didn't he just say that he said that was happening, though?
Civilians. and combatants in the Gaza Strip. But I would prefer to actually talk about, what.
Wasn't there? I'm confused.
No distinction between civilians.
Oh, there is a distinction. I thought he said that there were both. No, yeah, of course there's a distinction, but that's not what he's saying at all. What is he talking about?
And combatants in the Gaza Strip. But I would prefer to actually talk about, what we came onto, and I'd like to address the initial.
I misheard that. I thought he said that there were, I thought he said that there were just like both civilians and combatants in the Gaza Strip. I didn't know that he said there's no distinction. Obviously, there's a definite distinction between those two.
Points that you came up with. So if you really want me to concede that, and that will just shut you up for a second, that's fine.
What?
Took you a while.
He's only going to concede that he's wrong. So shut him up, not because he's wrong. Spoken like a true man of conviction there. Holy fuck, dude. This guy's a loser.
Okay, brilliant. So you said that I was a terrorist supporter for believing that Chen Kugel might lie.
Not that he might lie. What the fuck? That he might lie, or that?
Are they talking about Cenk Uygur? Hassan's uncle? Oh, yeah, that guy is a liar. Right? Like, that guy's a loser.
You said that you basically didn't believe that the Bibas children were strangled.
Yeah, they were strangled. They were strangled to death. Yeah.
And your argument was, some screenshot on Twitter says that it's difficult to analyze cause of death 14 months after the fact. And also, they lied about Shireen Abu Akleh.
A systemic pattern of lying much more like lying about the Al-Ahli Baptist Hospital.
Your lie about the Al-Ahli Baptist.
Wait, what? He doesn't believe, but that's what happened. What are you talking about?
This hospital is absolutely ridiculous.
What was my lie about the Al-Ahli Baptist Hospital?
You said that the Israeli government or the IDF lied about that rocket from the Al Jazeera video. But
yeah,
you understand
they did lie on television. They lied on television. So...
Do you realize that the entire fucking press thought that Al Jazeera video was most likely the rocket, right?
Who did those press work for, Loner Box?
Which press? AP,
who gives them their directives?
Reuters?
How free is this
Zionist
press?
Do you think we're not talking about Israel's press, we're talking about international press.
Yeah, go on.
International press also used that Al Jazeera video thinking that it was most likely the rocket because it just looked a bit like it.
I think they like to parrot Israel's claims. I think that it's...
That's so weird because we just watched him... That doesn't make any sense because we just watched him talk about... I could have swore... We just watched him talk about like how Western media disagrees with Israel. I could have swore he said something like that, but he kept showing us like instances of the Western media holding Israel a task.
What, Associated Press?
What?
BBC?
Yes, I think it's 100% Loner Box. That's not even questionable.
So we have Zionist occupied press in the international.
You must know the BBC parrot.
When you're somebody like this, you will never accept the truth. You are conspiracy brained. This kid is conspiracy brained. He's the same thing as any MAGA supporter. They decide not to believe any facts that they don't want to believe. It doesn't matter how much objective proof you show them. They will just say that the source is always biased unless that source agrees with them. That's all it is. He's just MAGA in reverse. Agam. All right?
What Israel says.
The BBC were criticized because they parroted the Hamas claim on the rocket. That's what the initial press reaction was.
And then they pivoted very quickly and just parroted Israel's.
Well, because it turned out...
Lie, right?
Wait, so they initially parroted Hamas and then they got... Wait, none of these narratives hold up. Holy fuck.
Because it turned out that it was completely false, that it was an IDF airstrike.
But okay, so when it turned out that Israel lied, why was there no pivot again into saying all of a sudden, actually Israel's lied here?
Well,
it's pretty provable
because the
that
lie from Israel was one spokesperson from the IDF said, I think it was this rocket, which it wasn't.
You're doing it again.
That was the lie.
He's not one spokesperson from the IDF. Who does he get his directives from?
Do you know the interaction between the spokesperson and the IDF when it comes to investigations?
Oh, come on. Israel doesn't have free press. They have an extreme military sector.
Hang on.
You know that, Loner.
So you just dodged the question. You don't actually know what process the spokesperson goes through before he goes on the media and talks about what...
Is this all you're going to do? Just be so...
You just admitted that you don't know.
Well, I mean, I'm curious about what it is.
But okay. But what do you mean I admitted that I don't know?
Yeah, you admitted you don't know.
Saying I was and you're just a very pathetic man going...
Dude, this kid got instantly fucking hostile. Holy fuck. That's the sign of somebody who knows what they're talking about. Instantaneous hostility.
Oh, behave like an adult. No, you didn't. You just tried to shout at me. Because you actually don't have an argument here. Hold on. So sorry. Do you admit that Israel has a military censor, right?
Yeah, they do. That's got nothing to do with the IDF spokesperson.
Do you think the spokesperson is just allowed to say whatever they want on TV? Do you think the spokesperson is just allowed to say whatever they want on TV?
The spokesperson's allowed to say whatever they want on TV. Spokespersons don't usually have that much regulation on what they're saying before each press statement. The consensus, it seemed to be in the international press as well as from the IDF, was that they thought that that rocket in the Al Jazeera video was the one that struck the hospital. It didn't even go into the IDF's final report, though. You can go on their website. They don't use that video.
That's fantastic. Do they not? Do they really not? So why did they do it then? Why did Peter Lerner go on television and say, we know that this happened? He claimed that this footage captured the misfiring rocket responsible for the blast.
Because he's an IDF spokesperson who's trying to fucking beef up his army. And at the time when this whole thing is in disarray...
What does beef up his army mean?
As in he was willing to jump to a conclusion that he shouldn't have.
Oh, okay. Without any government approval, and no other Israeli government officials said the same thing, that Hamas definitely struck this hospital.
Well, they probably were.
So what are they arguing about? Fucking Israeli propaganda? Like, yeah, I'm sure that they do engage in propaganda. Just like fucking Hamas engages in their own propaganda. That's like the whole point. Unfortunately, that's how wars are going to be won, is by fucking internet information.
Because everyone was saying that at the time.
But you know as well, like Ghassan Abu Sitter, who was there, maintains 100% that Israel struck it.
Who?
And he was actually there.
Okay, he was actually there. And
yeah, he was there.
So wait, do you think that Israel actually did strike the Al Ali hospital? Are you still there?
100%. Yeah.
Why do you disagree with forensic architecture when they say it was most likely a rocket?
Where does it say it was most likely a rocket? Because it says that all of the rockets from the photo burnt out. Where does it say it was most likely?
All the rockets from which salvo? From the Islamic Jihad?
Where does
the
it
Hamas
say
one?
most likely it was a rocket?
Yeah, let me find it for you. I'll find it for you. Okay.
There's no words most likely a rocket.
Okay, I'll show it for you. It might be likely or more likely. Al Ali. It's in my. Hang on. Israel Palestine Al Ali blast forensic architecture. This is from. When was their final analysis? They did an initial one on...
March was 2020. March is the one I was looking at, or February, I don't know.
Okay. And this is from... So initially they said it was an artillery fire that might have done it. And then they walk it back, and they do this Twitter thread here on November 14th, where they say...
So that's... Which date? November 14th, 2024.
Yes. And they didn't walk this back, by my recollection. They never actually said that it's more likely
wait, November 24th when?
You know, it's totally possible that like Loner Box is wrong about everything he's saying, and this kid is just so stupid and uneducated on the topic that he has no contests. He can't contest anything because he came in making a bunch of wild claims that were he already had to walk back. And maybe Loner Box has no idea what he's talking about, but I mean, he seems like he does, but I don't know, dude. Seems like this fucking kid is just kind of throwing around claims from spoiled food.
23.
23, yes.
Okay, so that's that's before the report
before the one that you're going for, but the one that you're going for doesn't actually make a claim about
thing.
how likely it was that it was a rocket or not. They just said it wasn't the salvo from Islamic Jihad, but they weren't the only ones firing rockets that day, were they?
So why hasn't Israel shown definitive evidence since, seeing as they have huge surveillance technology, complete control over the skies? Why haven't they shown?
Wait, who were the first ones on the site of the explosion?
Oh, I know about this. I think it was like Hamas, or it might have been a different terrorist organization that were able to capture they were able to clear the rockets before they were able to do like some kind of forensic analysis on the rockets, and that's where like a lot of this comes from. I remember something about that.
What do you mean?
Were the IDF the first ones on the site after the explosion, or was it not Hamas?
What do you mean it was Hamas on the site first?
As in it was the Hamas emergency services that went there first.
So they were able
You mean it was the Gaza Health Ministry?
No, not the health ministry. It would have been the it's whatever institution they have that runs the fire service and the emergency service. It's not the
Civil Defense Force.
Civil Defense. It was them, yeah. You're also aware that they claimed to have a piece of the munition, but they never produced
and they
it.
didn't. Well, I mean, what would be the point? Because there's no international investigators allowed in the Gaza Strip, really, is there?
Why would they not produce?
If they had the proof that it wasn't IDF, why wouldn't they just show that?
The evidence of the strike. They can show you the munition that landed there in the car park, didn't they?
Perhaps it got lost. You know, Gaza's been bombed a bit, hasn't it?
It got lost. Are you fucking joking?
They just didn't want to supply the proof.
Who knows, Loner Box? You know.
What do you mean? Who knows? Is that your analysis?
Well,
who knows? I guess. You're also aware that
everything there.
You're also
bomb the hell out of everything there. When you bomb it, and I've also, I've met Ghassan Abu Sitter, and he was there, and he maintains 100% that it was an Israeli rocket that struck it. The amount of deaths that were caused, the amount of injuries.
So if it was an Israeli rocket, why would Hamas hide the evidence? That doesn't make any sense. If there was a rocket that landed and Hamas recovered it first, why wouldn't they just be like, hey, this is the rocket that they used? Because it probably wasn't theirs. It's not like a super hot take to say. They're covering up evidence. I'm not saying Israel doesn't do that too, but like clearly this kid will fucking sweep hard for Hamas.
It's not consistent with any rocket.
He's just being ridiculous.
That like any Palestinian group possesses.
How do you know that? It landed in a car park. What happens when a rocket lands in when there are a bunch of cars around? What do cars have inside them?
I don't think it would cause an explosion that big. And he
also
what,
based on what? Based on based on what?
What do you mean?
Based on what? What your instincts? So you don't think because a rocket that still has fuel in it because it's fallen short and landed in a car park where cars are full of fuel?
Hold on, Loner Box. But the forensic architecture noted that all of those from the salvo burnt up. The rocket fuel was burnt up.
They only analysed one salvo. They analysed the Islamic Jihad rockets.
More that they just forgot to analyse. Right. I see.
Can you contradict that? So do you disagree that Hamas were firing rockets that day as well?
Well, I mean, seemingly the big salvo was analysed, and there seems to be no specific evidence.
So I'll ask you the question again because you're dodging it. Do you disagree that Hamas was firing rockets that day as well, like they posted on their Telegram?
But they're analysing Hamas-firing rockets.
They were analysing. They analysed 17 rockets from Islamic Jihad. You fucking liar. Hamas were firing rockets as well that were not analysed by forensic architecture. No. God. You're also aware that
it's just funny because this kid instantly escalated and now Loaderbox is just giving him the shit back, so it's funny.
You're also aware that if you look at Human Rights Watch, didn't they also say that one of their weapons analysts said that in like 25 years of doing this, it's never been the case where they've been unable to produce ammunition from a strike? Like as in every time, like a rocket or a missile or an artillery shell, it was from an ex-Human Rights guy, Human Rights Watch.
But where is it?
Let me find it for you. Wait, what claim did I just make out of interest?
You said that that there's a Human Rights Watch report where it was said that
not a report, an ex-Human Rights Watch
great
analyst who said that.
So forensic architecture maintain that they have debunked the claim that Israel has still not provided that it was a Hamas or Palestinian.
No, they haven't. They've just said no, they haven't. All that forensic architecture,
they have. Look at their report with Ghassan Abu Sitta. They say that we have since we, among others, debunked this claim.
Which claim?
They say
Read
the
before
source
it.
of the blast was immediately a point of contestation. Israeli officials suggested that a failed rocket launched by Hamas or Palestinian Islamic Jihad. This seems to be the only thing you have that you're like, well, actually, Hamas did this. No, look at the October report.
The October report, which they walked back on.
What do you mean? This is October 2024. So it's a year later.
So you understand that they analysed in that one that with the 17 rockets, that's from an Islamic Jihad rocket barrage. It's in just them.
Sorry.
And also, you also acknowledge that they are the only ones who made this conclusion that all 17 rockets were accounted for.
What do you mean? Well, I think they've done by far the most succinct analysis of it. Can you provide me another example?
I mean, everyone else has been clear, as well as forensic architecture as well, by the way, when they said that the crater was most consistent with a rocket. I've showed you that as well. I need to add you as a friend for you to accept.
Including the crater. Based on videos and photographs, the Earth movement, we constructed a digital model and conducted a spatial analysis of each of the blasts, including the crater and impacts.
Yes, so
I don't know, man. It seems to me like maybe this kid shouldn't be talking about shit he doesn't understand. That's just my advice. You know what I mean? I try not to.
Reconstruction of the crater to locations of the shrapnel markings, images of the blast of the shrapnel court node. Much of the analysis today's explosion has been conducted from afar. By contrast, Dr. Abu Sitta's testimony offers a ground level view. Since the start of Israel's assault, blah, 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 blah. But anyway, so why do you think it's so strange that, they would, Israel wouldn't attack this hospital?
Did you just read that article and say blah, 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 blah?
When they've got a systemic pattern of...
I'm going to leave the conjecture because we can just look at... You don't even agree on what...
A systemic pattern? A lot of buzzwords today.
You don't even agree on what these organizations have said. So forensic architecture, November 14th, they say on October 20th, we shared an image of what we suggested could be an artillery shell impact crater. This was a mistake. The image likely showed impact from a rocket. Now, if my recollection is, the crater did not change at any point between November 2023 and March 24. So forensic architecture still says likely impact from a rocket, like every other investigation that went into this. And the fact that Hamas and Islamic Jihad said that they had a piece of this munition, never produced it. The next day, it wasn't that it got lost in an Israeli airstrike or anything else. It's that he just said that it dissolved like salt in the water, which is what you say when you are fucking lying.
Brilliant. So do you think that this is out of line with Israel's general behavior in Gaza?
He just got washed so hard, and he's just like, okay. Well, do you think that Israel lies sometimes? Yeah, I do. And then you want to know what? They do investigations to find out what the truth is. That's the point. That's the whole point.
Do you not think that Israel systemically targeted
So
hospitals?
sorry. I'm not letting you get
Hey, do you not think that's Israel avocados? Superfruit.
Away with just worming your way around that entire analysis.
Get away with what?
And acknowledging that
did
no
Israel
one,
not have any
not
rockets?
one,
Did Israel not have any rockets?
Qassam rockets? No.
Did Israel not have any rockets? Well, where does it say that it was a Qassam rocket? And why, if it was a Qassam rocket, there would be video footage that Israel would surely have access
Which
to?
Which munitions are Israel firing into Gaza that they would say they fire artillery, they have airstrikes, they have drone strikes? If they're saying impact from a rocket.
But also, it doesn't say that it was impact from a rocket on here.
Likely,
on the one
they say likely showed impact from a rocket. Have they walked back on that? Have they changed that since in recent investigations? I don't think they have.
So, Dr. Abu Sitta's assessment, this suggested to him that the rocket was likely a fragmentation bomb. Following the blast, many news outlets cited the claim. However, our analysis suggests that the rockets identified by the Israeli army would have burned through their propellant. This is exactly what they're saying. So you keep maintaining that this is a Hamas rocket, right? But there's no example. Like forensic architecture, if you can provide me someone who's done digital analysis like this, reconstructed what happened and says exactly the same thing, I will concede my point here. But you're just going.
So you disagree that CNN, New York Times, Associated Press all said that this was most likely a rocket? Like a Hamas or Islamic Jihad rocket?
When did they say that? When did they say that?
They said it in November. They said it, November.
Straight after Israel went on television and said this, right?
What do you mean straight after? One is from 22nd of November, one is from November 2nd. So wait, just because Israel went on television and said it, then it could also be the case that Israel's claim corresponded with the truth in this one case. I don't know.
But I don't think it does.
You don't even know what forensic architecture said. You thought they accounted for every single rocket that was fired out of Gaza at that point. When all they did was went for the Islamic Jihad salvo. So you don't know anything.
I mean, this is kind of like the point that you think you're a genius on. You think you're doing like some kind of brilliant military analysis, but like, let's be real.
I'm literally just reading.
I mean, honestly, it just sounds like he's reading the news. It sounds like we're in a fucking information age where you could just read the fucking news and know what you're talking about. This guy just doesn't read the news.
What the analyst said, and you're not. You're cherry picking the fact that one video.
What analyst are you reading? Like what analyst?
Well, first of all, I'm reading Forensic Architecture. Then it was a former UN.
The tweet from October.
From November. On October, they said artillery.
From November.
Then in November.
From November of when?
23.
From November of when?
23.
From November, exactly. So I'm talking about a year later.
They've never claimed. They've never changed their claim on the crater, which they said was most likely a rocket impact. Have they?
Well, they don't even say that in the 2024 one.
Wow, so they haven't walked back the claim that it's most likely a rocket, which means they are still bound to the claim that they think was most likely a rocket.
Model of the hospital and conducted a spatial analysis of features of the blast, including the crater and impacts. It doesn't say that it was caused by a rocket here. It says it suggested to him the rocket was likely to have been a fragmentation bomb. Do Hamas possess those?
You're just talking about Abu Sitas, though.
Do Hamas possess fragmentation bombs? Well, he was there, and I kind of trust his testimony over Israel's.
Okay, well that's your. So you don't care what the investigations say.
What do you mean the investigation says? This is an investigation with forensic architecture, where they reconstructed what he was saying.
I'm talking about investigations from, first of all, forensic architecture when they looked at the crater and said most likely a rocket, like everyone else did. I don't know why, just because forensic architecture, who literally calls them the IOF in their Twitter threads, by the way, not a particularly.
Yeah, they should. It's run by an Israeli.
So just admit you're a propagandist. You don't give a fuck.
What do you mean? What do you mean?
If you're going to literally.
What is the IOF? Like, what does that mean? What's the difference? Oh, Israeli occupation forces instead of his. Okay.
Change the name of an organization to like a propaganda term, calling it the IOF, then you're just a propagandist. You don't give a fuck.
What do the Israeli occupation forces mainly do, Loaderbox? Where do they serve?
What are they called? Is the question. They're called the IDF.
Where do they serve? No. Where do they serve?
Oh, okay, I guess I'll just call Hamas a resistance organization, even though they fire their attacks into a sovereign country. Even though they fire their attacks into sovereign territory by international law, right?
Hold on, Loaderbox. So where do Israel operate? Where are the Israeli forces predominantly?
They operate right now in Gaza, Lebanon, Syria, and in the West Bank.
But where are they predominantly? Where's the largest amount of forces right now and generally over the last 20 years?
West Bank.
So
that doesn't mean that
is the West Bank occupied?
That doesn't mean you have to call them.
But is the West Bank occupied?
That doesn't mean you have to call them the IOF.
No, but is it?
Well, I mean, I feel like I feel like it's not really a battle worth winning for Loaderbox for this one. I mean, if they're occupying that heavily, maybe you could kind of see why people would call it that, I guess. I don't know. But you know what? Fuck me in the ass.
Stop nitpicking. Is the West Bank occupied?
Yeah.
So would it be someone saying, well, actually calling them a defense force when they spend most of their time defending settlements, arresting Palestinians and harming them, would it be that inaccurate to call it
so we just not call it the USSR because it's not a union of Soviet Socialist republics?
I mean, if an organization wanted to, yeah.
And if an organization wanted to call them the fucking batshit Central Command like famine overseers, really, that would be okay because that's what they were. Yeah,
maybe.
And you would trust the historian who calls them that. Okay, that's kind of stupid.
Yeah,
I know. That's kind of dumb.
I mean, Loaderbox, what's it?
I feel like that this was just not a fight worth fighting for, specifically on like the IDF. I mean, I disagree, but like, you know what I mean? Like with the IDF label or IOF label, I just feel like this one's not like worth it,
Israel done over the last, month. What's it not allowed into Gaza?
Journalists.
No, not just journalists. But food, water, anything, right? They're calling it Hell's Plan.
Okay.
So what, you think calling them famine
overlords? Why am I letting you dodge the fact that you still don't actually, you didn't even know what happened with the fucking forensic architecture investigation. You thought they accounted for every rocket that was fired that day.
Loaderbox. The whole point
no one has proven. So apart from Abu Sita you're shouting. I'm shouting just matching.
But also, what your point here is, and what you're trying to say to me is, you don't know exactly what happened. Wow.
Well, these are claims that you brought up, by the way. You brought up these claims.
What I am saying is...
Also, this is a former UN war crimes investigator.
Can you not talk
Former UN war crimes investigator. In 20 years of investigating war crimes, there's always a piece of bomb, and I've never... And yeah, this is the first time in 20 years.
I do that.
Even 3 years, 3 wars in Gaza.
So, Loaderbox.
Even 3 wars in Gaza. And he hasn't seen a single piece of bomb.
You're going to shout over and over again. The point in my video was not what I mean. I knew you would do this. You're just a debate lord. You're like, oh, you don't know every single thing.
You've literally dodged every single fucking.
I mean, this kid is the one coming into the conversation. There's a difference between like trying to bait somebody versus trying to like give factual information to somebody. I don't know. Is Loaderbox using like legit like debate tactics? It seems like he's just pressing them on like the kid brings up a point and then he's pressing them on the point. But
let me just say something, Loaderbox. Let me just say something. The point in my video was Israeli spokesmen like to lie. They go on television. They make outlandish claims to say something that they cannot prove, that they cannot verify. Why do they do that? Well, they spread disinformation to fuel their narrative. What did Israel begin to do on a far larger scale after
just
they
waiting for you
bombed
to make a
this hospital?
single substantial point on the investigation or on the PBS children or anything else? Like, this is just narrative. Like, just give me a point.
How is it narrative? How is it narrative, Loadbox? It's a very
because you're not saying anything, because you just realized that you have no fucking idea what any of these investigations have their consensus on the Al-Ali blast. You don't know. You don't know what the consensus is on the Al-Ali blast.
I don't know what the consensus is. Loaderbox, I
You don't. The consensus is that it was most likely a rocket.
All you can do is shout over me because you keep saying I'm dodgy. You keep saying that I can't answer things. So why I brought this up was to say Israeli spokesmen lie on TV. Do they lie on TV? Do they spread lies? You said it was to fire up their army, whatever the fuck that means. But really, you know why they lie, don't you?
Yeah, when they lie to propagandize. Yeah, that's what it is. Because wars are fought through propaganda now. That's what's going on.
To discredit Palestinians and make it seem like they spread lies, and so Israel could then.
Well, I mean, Hamas spreads lies too, right? Like we understand this.
And go on and attack.
Isn't this literally why every army lies? Like, do you think why does Hamas lie?
What do you mean?
Why does Hamas lie?
But like, why are you saying?
Why does Hamas lie? Yeah, why do they lie?
What do you mean? Why do Hamas
Well, this guy's not going to think Hamas lies. He's going to think that like Israel only lies.
lie? For their own gain, but we're talking about Israel lying. Why are you just pivoting to Israel lying?
He's not pivoting. He's trying to make it seem like Israel's the only like people who engage in propaganda tactics, and it's like no, like everybody does. That doesn't make it right. But like you can't just hold them to one standard. Then like, you're saying that like lying is bad, but when Hamas does it, it's okay. That's what you're effectively saying.
But you're just asking why a particular army lies. Yeah, probably for the same reason that spokespersons from every army lies. Is there something special about the way Israel lies?
Yes, because they have systemically attacked hospitals since. It is not outlandish to think. Okay, let's add up
well, the claim wasn't about raiding hospitals. The claim was about air.
Would you use the term systematically? Doesn't that make more sense here? Am I wrong?
Striking a hospital and killing. The claim was about air striking. The claim was about air striking a hospital, flattening the building, and killing 500 people. That was the original claim.
Never flattening the building.
Well, the original claim was that it killed 500 people. You'd have to formally flatten the building to do that.
I think it's now claimed. I mean, on the ground, mate. If you're dealing with 400 bodies in front of you,
but you do actually admit that that 500 claim was bullshit, right? You actually
it's 471.
Yeah, and you admit that you admit that 471 was bullshit. That no one else confirmed anything close to that.
I mean. Well, the problem is, Loaderbox, is I would love them to be able to confirm it, and someone's
you can't do it.
Hold on, but why can't that happen, Loaderbox?
There were international aid workers on the ground when that happened.
But it's not just international aid workers. There's no one allowed to go in by Israel. Why do they keep denying full UN investigations into October the 7th? Why do they keep denying journalists to go into Gaza, international journalists? Why do they keep denying it UN journalists?
What does that have to do with the fact that there were? What does that have to do with the fact that there were international aid workers on the ground when that strike happened? So yes, the 471 claim is bullshit because there were already international people on the ground.
Is one of them. What is your point here? Hassan Abu Sitta is one of those international aid workers who maintains what he saw, and he said no one asked him from Amnesty, Human Rights Watch, all of these places. They chose to not speak to him. Now, my point here, and even in the video, I actually say what forensic architecture cannot say is definitively who struck this, but what they can say is that Israel lied, and that was the point there. And what you
can they not say? Did Hamas not lie about the strike as well? They said 471 people died. That was a lie. That didn't happen.
I mean, how do you know it's a lie? How do you know it's a lie?
Because there were international aid workers on the ground, and people corroborated their claims of how many people died. And then it was what do you mean? What report? Like you need a UN report to show how many people died on one day? You trust the health? Wait, you trust the health ministry? What do you mean? Where's the report?
I mean, what do you mean?
What do you mean? Where's the report? Like what report? Like a news report?
What's your point here? So apparently the United States estimates between 100 and to 300 killed. Al-Shifa estimates 250. Gaza Health Ministry estimates 471. Either way, Loaderbox, I do think that's splitting hairs.
471. Wait, so it's
at minimum.
So there's a lot.
Minimum.
Do you know what else is splitting? Do you know what else is splitting hairs? Arguing over an Al Jazeera video of a rocket that everyone thought looked like it was the one that hit the hospital, and then saying, "Oh, well, that one wasn't actually the rocket," and therefore the IDF lied. Like that's that would be splitting hairs. Would be, "Oh, well, this video wasn't actually the rocket that struck the hospital," but everyone still agrees it was a rocket.
Pointing to a still.
Everyone still agrees it was most likely a rocket.
Mid-air explosion. He claimed that this footage captured the misfiring rocket. So he claimed directly that it captured it. He didn't just say, "Oh, sorry, excuse me." Sorry, Loaderbox, I haven't got much respect for you, so I didn't mute my mic. But, anyway, Peter Loaderbox went on and lied, right? So, sorry, I just have mixed up words there, but Peter Lerner went on and lied, right? Like, that happened. So that happened.
That's and Hamas lied as well, though, didn't they? The health ministry lied
about it as well. But you keep saying Hamas lied. You keep saying
they did lie.
Hamas, about what?
About the death toll. No one else agrees with it.
But what would it matter if there was... Okay, so...
What would it matter if it was a different rocket and not the one in the video? It's split. Why is one splitting hair and one isn't?
Well, still even, Loaderbox.
Why is one splitting hairs and one isn't?
Okay. The Loaderbox.
Why is one splitting hairs and one isn't?
Says 471. They've been pretty accurate on every. In fact, they've undercounted the deaths in Gaza. Can you admit that?
Yes. Why is one splitting hairs and one isn't?
But,
about the rocket video?
This is just debate, Lord. My point is that
no, it's not
Israel
debate,
lied
Lord.
on
It's just that you think it's
It
splitting
is.
hairs.
Well, this kid's point is that because Israel has lied before, that means every claim that they make is a lie. But since Hamas lies, he does not hold them to that same standard. He quite literally is holding Israel to a higher standard. Is this not like the bigotry of lowered expectations?
You think it's splitting hairs to fabricate 270 deaths, but it's not splitting hairs to say that it was actually this video of a rocket when it was something else. Why is one splitting hairs but not the other?
Because one influenced massive amounts of international news, and the other one, regardless of how many people
you
died.
don't. The entire every fucking news organization walked back on the 471 claim.
All you can do is shout over me to make yourself feel better, whilst your chat are all like,
You
"Oh, it was so
literally-
great." But the truth is, Loaderbox, right?
literally
Let's
talk
be
in all
frank. Let's
caps.
end this here. Let's end this here. I just have a loud voice, mate. Let's end this here.
Oh,
You're
I just have a
actively
loud voice
raising
as
your
well.
No, you're actively raising your voice. My voice is just very loud. It's something that people always
Okay, well,
talk
I
about
need to match your loud voice. What's wrong with that?
Oh, brilliant. Brilliant, Loaderbox. You really are like a very.
Yeah, go on, quick. You have to make a point. Come on, don't be around the bush. Go on, make a point.
The whole point of my video was Israel lied. But you know what as well? You call me.
But you also don't understand. But you seem to have missed the fact that Hamas lied as well, and also influenced all the headlines.
You seem to have missed the fact that Israel, said we didn't strike this hospital. Israel has then gone to a strike hospital after hospital. Forensic architecture says Israel hasn't proved what they said. If Israel hasn't,
that's what I don't get though. That's what I don't get.
Why would they send a spokesman on to just say things?
That's
Why
what
would
I.
you do that?
That's what I don't. That's what I don't get though.
If you're a professional army, why would you say? Why would you go on and say we definitively know that this was a Hamas or Islamic Jihad? It's not even a news organization, Loaderbox. That is an army that went on and said those things. Anyway, you also call me a terrorist for saying that Chen Kugel might lie. Hold on. You call me a terrorist for saying that Chen Kugel might lie.
No, that's not what I said. That's not what I said. I said you were.
Who's Chen Uyghur? Who's the fuck's that? Who's this Asian guy?
Because you basically said that you didn't think that the BS children were strangled because you saw a tweet of a screenshot of what looked like a ChatGPT answer that said, what did it say? Yeah, it's hard to analyze death, cause of death at 14 months after the fact. Difficult.
I think that's pretty plausible, Loaderbox. I feel like from
pretty plausible. Yeah, because you just jumped to a conclusion about fucking murdered baby for no fucking reason other than the fact that you want Hamas to win and you're upset that they're not winning.
That is what happened. Those kids were strangled. I mean, you could figure it out. The only reason that they want to cast out is because they want to push Hamas as like some kind of like purely innocent, Puritan thing.
That's it.
Hold on.
You had no evidence. You had nothing. You didn't even look into the fact that it wasn't even Hamas that had the fucking babies.
Loaderbox, can you show me the autopsy report?
The report from the forensics was that they were strangled.
No. Where is this autopsy report? Because I haven't seen it anywhere.
Really? So wait, do you think the health ministry should? Do you think the health ministry should release every autopsy report?
Well, I think maybe in the case of like this.
Well, okay. So it's you only want it from the health. You only want it from the Israelis, but not from the health ministry. I see. It's almost as if they're. You don't want. Do you want autopsy reports from every death in the health ministry before you believe it?
What ministry are you talking about? Well, it's a very specific death, isn't it, Loaderbox? But anyway,
why does it matter if it's a specific death? You realize there are a million reasons why people. Why do you think? Oh, so you think the family? So you think the family should publish? So you think the family should publish the health ministry the forensic report? Just to
Israel
make you
had
happy.
already made the decision to go against what the Bibas family wanted, right? Like Israel, used it for political gain.
Did they want did they want the forensic report with the photographs and everything to be published?
Well, you could redact the photographs.
No, they didn't. Did they want the forensic report published or not?
But the forensic report isn't published.
Did they want it published?
But they didn't want anything that the Israeli government did. So
did
the Israeli government
did they want the forensic report published?
Sorry. What do you mean?
That's the only question that matters. Did they ask to publish the forensic report or not?
They published things about the family without actually asking.
And so the family doesn't want things published without asking.
Yeah, and the Israeli government did it anyway.
So you don't.
Sure, yeah, they didn't want their what happened to be like politicized and publicized in that way. But I mean, if they didn't want it published, then why would they publish the autopsy report? Right? Like, you gotta have to like stay consistent. I guess his argument's going to be that since Israel already violated that one aspect of the boundary, they should violate the other aspect. But I would imagine that like I guess the IDF probably would have access to that autopsy information.
So they shouldn't. So what's the problem then? Should they not publish? Should they publish the forensic report against the will of the family?
I mean, they've already published whatever they wanted. So
we're talking about that. We're talking about the forensics. Hang on. You have two standards at once now. We're talking about the Forensics Institute. I agree. They shouldn't publish information.
Well, the Forensic Institute. I think that the Forensic Institute already spoke. But anyway, Chen Kugel said that he saw beheaded babies on
Chen Kugel?
October the 7th.
No, he didn't. He was never quoted directly saying that.
Yes, he is. Do you want to see a video?
He's paraphrased.
No. There's a video of him.
There's a video of him talking about the youngest person that he saw that was beheaded was a girl 8 or 10. He didn't even say he knew. He didn't even say he knew how she was beheaded. You realize that when people go between Hebrew and English.
Where are you sending me things? I'll put it in there.
You have to accept my friend's request.
I'm not accepting a friend request. Go in your introductions.
Are you that petty that you wouldn't accept a request on Discord to get a message sent to you?
Yeah, bro. I don't want to see.
Why? That's so fucking pathetic.
You can unfollow the person. You can unfriend them after, I believe.
Mass propaganda.
It's just to send you a fucking message, bro. What the fuck?
Loaderbox, you're like,
what's wrong with you?
Shouting at me.
He's afraid that he's afraid of getting groomed by Loaderbox. That's what he's afraid of.
I'm not shouting. I'm laughing.
A great groomer.
at you. I'm
You
deriding
are shouting at me. But anyway,
you're
I'm not
upset
sure
that they didn't. You're upset that they didn't release a forensic report, even though you know that the family didn't want it published. Why?
What do you mean? Because Israel already publishes whatever it wanted against the family's will. Anyway, I sent you the video in introduction.
What do you mean, Israel? First of all, the Forensics Institute is its own institution, okay? And it's clear.
But it doesn't. Come
they
on,
would have needed. They would have needed permission. They would have needed permission to send the forensics report out to the public, and obviously they didn't.
Okay, so Israel didn't have access to it.
Want to do that, so why would they? Your evidence is you don't even know who held them hostage. You thought it was Hamas.
Well, yeah, but here's my thing. I think if they released a forensic report, this kid would have just said that they were lying anyway. He's already established he will never believe what Israel says or thinks. So
didn't even do. You not in your stream. You didn't. You lying cunt. You said that it was.
Oh, you can't say that word, doodle.
Whole time.
That's a bad boy word.
You lied, or you didn't even do your due diligence.
What do you mean?
So you talk about
I was on a stream.
You talk about expressing skepticism, and you uploaded the video from your upload. Yeah, you uploaded that video,
honestly,
and the entire time you said it was Hamas. You didn't even bother to check who had them hostage. What a fucking fraud! Get the fuck out of here! Leave me alone! Fucking hell! Waste of time. Jesus Christ!
Well, that's not.
All to lie about a fucking dead baby who got strangled by their captors.
All right, that was a hell of a debate, I suppose.